When I came home after being away for a few months, I found out that the house I grew up in, the one filled with my childhood memories, was being sold. You told me I could do whatever I wanted, so I did, I thought. But if anyone has to take responsibility for this mess, it should be you. After all, it's your house, right? This wasn't just about money, it was my revenge, because they constantly looked down on me for being poor. My husband, Ken, and my mother-in-law, Lisa, sold the house behind my back while I was gone. They even broke a contract on purpose and laughed at me for having to pay the penalties since I technically owned the house. They didn't care about how their actions hurt me or my parents, who entrusted this house to us. I'll never forgive them for what they've done. Ken and I have been married for 10 years. We've known each other since we were kids and started dating young. I come from a well-off family, my parents own a business, and I've lived a comfortable life. Ken, on the other hand, grew up in a single-parent household and didn't have much money. Despite that, my parents and I loved Ken for his kind personality, and they even treated him like their own son. When my parents decided to retire, they moved into another house my father owned and let Ken and me live in their old house. They wanted to help us as much as they could. My father even planned to transfer the house's ownership to me. He told me, "We'll finalize the paperwork soon, and after that, you can do whatever you like with the house. Maybe you can sell it and use the money to move into a new place someday." The house was in great shape, but it was too big for Ken and me since we'd decided not to have children. I was grateful for my parents' generosity, and I slowly started preparing to sell the house, working with a real estate agent. But Ken wasn't supportive. "Ken, I told you to fill out this form. I need to submit it today," I reminded him. "Just do it yourself. You're always nagging me. It's not a big deal," he snapped. I couldn't help but think, where did the kind and thoughtful Ken I married go? Since we got married, Ken had become lazier, leaving me to handle everything. He even made me fill out important documents for him, and if I refused, it would cause problems. So, to keep the peace, I always gave in and did it myself. Maybe he kept treating me this way because I let him. We had decided to sell the house and had even picked a new one to move into, but as I dealt with Ken's growing laziness and disrespect, I started to wonder if staying married to him was the right choice. One day, I got a call saying my parents had been in a serious car accident. I rushed to the hospital to see them. Thankfully, they survived, but their injuries were severe. The doctors said they'd need about 6 months to recover, and someone would have to take care of them for at least 3 months. I'll ask Ken, I thought. I also decided to talk to my workplace about adjusting my schedule. "I'll be there to take care of you both," I promised my parents. When I asked my husband, Ken, if I could stay with my parents for an extended period to help them, he easily agreed. "It's okay, it's your thing," he said, but the way he said it felt indifferent, like he didn't care about my parents at all. Still, with his permission, I was free to focus on supporting them. But then another worry popped into my mind. Could Ken take care of himself while I was gone? He's completely hopeless when it comes to house chores. He might manage to feed himself, but washing clothes or remembering to take out the trash, forget it. I didn't want to come back to a house that looked like a garbage dump, so I decided to ask my mother-in-law, Lisa, for help. "Please take care of Ken while I'm gone," I said. "Feel free to use the house however you like." Lisa replied with a smile, but her words were sharp. "Oh dear, you're going through so much, Mary, but don't your parents have enough money to hire someone to help them? Or do you just miss them too much?" She continued, "Don't worry about Ken. I'll take good care of my son. Stay as long as you want." Lisa adores Ken and probably sees me as the woman who stole her son from her. Her sarcastic remarks made me uncomfortable, but I had no choice but to rely on her. I thanked her politely, swallowing my frustration. I packed only what I needed and rushed to my parents' home to take care of them. The days were so busy that 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. I barely stayed in touch with Ken during that time, but it was all worth it because my parents were recovering well. When things finally settled down, I was ready to return home. I got in the car and drove back, excited to be home again, but when I arrived, I couldn't believe my eyes. A for sale sign was posted in front of the house, and the real estate agency listed on the sign was one I didn't recognize. "What's going on?" I whispered in shock. I immediately called Ken, hoping for an explanation. On the other end of the line, Ken chuckled as if mocking me. "I sold the house and moved back to my parents' place. I did everything for you while you were gone. he said casually. I couldn't make sense of what he was saying, so I drove straight to my in-laws' house, which was just a few minutes away. When I arrived, I was stunned to see my personal belongings piled up outside by the door. As I stood there confused, a contractor came up, grabbed the pile of my belongings, and loaded them into a truck. Ken and Lisa were standing nearby, smiling and counting money they'd received from the contractor. They looked different, dressed in fancy clothes and driving a luxury car. What's going on? I demanded, my voice shaking. Lisa smirked and said, I got rid of all your useless junk from that house. You grew up spoiled, so it's no surprise you don't know how to take care of your things. Then, with a cruel smile, she added, you're such an unfit wife, leaving your husband alone for months just to take care of your parents. I told Ken he should divorce someone like you. Her words hit me like a slap. Ken chimed in, that house was in your name, so I sold it. Consider it compensation for everything you've done to me. You told me I could do whatever I wanted, so I did. Lisa showed me the paperwork for the sale, grinning smugly as she explained. The contract was dated about a month ago, even though the house was already supposed to be listed with another real estate agency. You can't do this without my permission. That's my house. Any sale without my signature is invalid, and now you've breached the contract. We'll have to pay compensation, I yelled, panicking. Lisa shrugged and said, not my problem. If there's a penalty to pay, that's on you. It's your house, after all. It was clear Lisa believed Ken's version of the story, where he painted himself as the victim. Desperate, I turned to Ken, hoping he'd see reason. But he just smirked, echoing Lisa's attitude. Finally, I've gotten my revenge, Ken said coldly. You and your family have looked down on me for being poor my whole life. I've always felt like an outsider, and now I've evened the score. If being poor is such a joke to you, let me show you what money can really do. I refuse to let you live the good life alone. Go to hell. Ken spewed his bitterness at me and tossed divorce papers in my direction, already signed on his end, waiting only for my signature. I could have had Mom handle the filing, but that wouldn't have been nearly as satisfying. This way, it's a perfect twist, don't you think? The spoiled rich girl who mocked the poor finally gets knocked down. What will you do now, with no mommy or daddy to save you? Ken and Lisa were practically glowing with excitement, proud of their scheme. But instead of getting angry, I felt calm. They were digging their own graves, and they didn't even realize it. Sorry to interrupt your little celebration, I said, but I've got some news for you. This house isn't mine. You're the ones going to hell. What? I pulled a document from my bag and handed it to them. This is the official property registry. As of last week, the house is in Ken's name. The ownership transfer was delayed because of my parents' accident, but it's done now, and since you both agreed to sell the house, well, the consequences are on you. Ken's face went pale as he stared at the document, and Lisa's smugness vanished in an instant. You don't remember, Ken, but I even double-checked with you to make sure it was okay. My parents trusted you and Lisa. They wanted to show their appreciation for all you've done by giving you the house. They believed you would take care of me, but instead, you betrayed their trust and disrespected their generosity. Both of them froze, trembling as the reality of what they had done sank in. This isn't just about the house anymore, it's a legal nightmare. Both real estate agencies will be involved in this mess. I'll reach out to the agency I originally signed with, and you can deal with the one you worked with. I can't believe they even accepted your fake story. I took a deep breath and added, this isn't about money, it's about character. You've shown me what it means to be truly poor in spirit. With that, I pulled out my phone and prepared to call the real estate agency. Wait, Ken suddenly panicked. This isn't what I wanted. I was just upset because you left me. Let's talk this through, as a married couple. Oh, I know. Why don't we just buy back the house that's on the market now? You can call the old real estate agency and pretend none of this happened. You're rich, so you can do that, right? Please? Ken, panicking, clung to me, desperately trying to fix things. This whole thing happened because of my mother. Lisa, furious at her son's sudden change in loyalty, snapped, Hey, Ken, are you betraying me now? I did everything for you. How could you abandon your own mother to take her side? What kind of heartless son are you? I smirked and replied, Oh, didn't you say earlier that it's scummy to put parents first, Lisa? So now you should be thrilled Ken isn't scum, right? You should call him a fine son. Lisa's face fell, her words coming back to haunt her, leaving her speechless. Ken, on the other hand, switched sides entirely, pleading with me. You're the most important person to me now, Mary. I promise I'll change my ways and do better. I stared at him coldly. Who said anything about forgiving you? Ken reached for my hand, but I quickly pulled away. Ken, I've been fed up with your laziness for a long time, and when things go wrong, you always blame someone else and expect others to clean up your mess. How can I trust you to change? Let me be clear, I'm not your secretary or your servant. You're an adult, and it's time you take responsibility for your actions. You and Lisa will pay for what you've done, and you'll deal with the consequences for the rest of your lives. With that, I grabbed the divorce papers, signed them on the spot, and walked out, leaving both Ken and Lisa stunned. After some complications, my divorce from Ken was finalized. Ken and Lisa tried to sue my family, claiming they were tricked and demanding compensation, but, as expected, they lost in court. Now, they're being held responsible for significant compensation to both real estate agencies because of their malicious actions. On top of that, they've turned on each other, blaming one another for the disaster they created. It seems they'll be stuck in this mess for a very long time. My company arranged for me to work remotely, so I can continue supporting my parents as they recover from their accident. I'm back at my parents' house, helping them with their rehabilitation. Honey, your bath is ready. Thank you, I'll wash the dishes, so you go ahead and get in first. You must be tired from rehab. Well, you should relax and get in first, Mary. I'll clean the bathtub later. My parents are still recovering, but they continue to support each other and enjoy their time together. Living with them again, I'm reminded of their warmth and the strong bond they share. Watching them, I realized what was missing in my marriage with Ken: respect and care for each other. I know there were things I could have done better, but looking back, I don't think Ken or Lisa ever treated me with that kind of kindness. At first, I was sad and frustrated about the divorce, but now I know it was the right decision. If I meet someone again in the future, I'll be more careful. I never want to worry my parents again. I've learned a lot from everything with Ken and Lisa, and I'll carry those lessons forward in my life, and I'll always be grateful for my parents' love and support as I start a new chapter.
The note I left was simple. You forgot my birthday. I won't let you forget me. Petty? Maybe, but after 7 years of marriage, I deserved more than being excluded from my own house party. I'm Sonia, and this is how I finally stopped being the invisible backbone of the Dunn family empire. It started when I pulled into our driveway at 6 p.m., returning from a lonely dinner I treated myself to, since no one had remembered my birthday. The first sign something was wrong was all the cars parked along our street. I recognized them all: Jake's mother's Mercedes, his sister Sophia's Range Rover, even his cousin's beat-up Volkswagen. Music drifted from our open windows, along with the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. My hands trembled as I turned off the ignition. Surely there had to be an explanation. Jake wouldn't throw a party on my birthday without me. Would he? I used my key to open the front door, and the noise hit me full force. Our living room was packed with Jake's family and friends, all holding drinks and chatting animatedly. A large banner hung across the fireplace. "Congratulations on the Miller account, Jake." My husband stood in the center of it all, champagne glass raised, his mother Emerson's arm wrapped proudly around his shoulders. "To my brilliant son," she was saying, "who single-handedly landed the biggest client of the year." Single-handedly. Right. I had spent 3 months preparing that proposal, staying up until 2 a.m. most nights, researching every detail about Miller Industries while Jake played golf with his buddies. I had written every word of that presentation Jake had delivered. "Sonia," Sophia spotted me first, her eyes widening. "I didn't know you'd be here." The room fell quiet. Jake turned, his expression shifting from celebration to confusion. "Honey, you're home early. I thought you had that thing tonight." "That thing?" I kept my voice steady. "You mean my birthday dinner? Alone?" Emerson's perfectly painted lips formed an O of false surprise. "Oh dear, was that today? Jake, you should have said something." But Jake was already turning back to his guests, raising his glass again. Everyone, let's welcome my wife to the party. Come on, honey, grab a drink. We're celebrating. Jake, I said quietly, can we talk privately? He sighed, that familiar look of annoyance crossing his face. Not now, Sonia. We have guests. It'll just take a minute. I said not now. He snapped, then immediately softened his tone, aware of watching eyes. Just mingle, okay? We'll talk later. I stood there for a moment, watching him return to his admirers. 7 years of supporting him, of being the silent partner, of letting him take credit for my work. 7 years of his mother's subtle digs and his sister's two-faced friendship. 7 years of being invisible in my own home. I turned and walked upstairs, my heels clicking against the hardwood floors. In our bedroom, I pulled out my largest suitcase and began methodically packing my clothes. From my home office, I retrieved my laptop and the external hard drive containing all my work files, proposals, client lists, financial records, everything I had built for Jake's family business while letting him take the credit. The party continued downstairs, oblivious to my actions. I could hear Emerson's laugh, the same laugh she'd used when telling Jake he could do better than me at our wedding reception. My phone buzzed, a text from my friend Zuriel. Happy birthday. How's your day been? I typed back, can I stay with you for a while? Her response was immediate. Of course. Everything okay? It will be. I took one last look around the bedroom, at the life I had let myself be pushed into the margins of. Then I picked up my suitcase, laptop bag, and purse. The party was in full swing as I walked down the stairs and straight out the front door. No one noticed. In my car, I took out a notepad and wrote my message. Simple, direct. 7 words that would make them remember me. I walked back to place it on the kitchen counter, where Jake would find it when the party was over. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of our house in my rearview mirror. Through the windows, I could see shadows of people celebrating, raising their glasses to Jake's success built on my invisible foundation. But I wasn't invisible anymore. I was leaving and I was taking that foundation with me. Let's see how well their house stands without it. My phone buzzed again, Zuriel sending her address. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about what you do to others, but what you do for yourself. And this was just the beginning. Zuriel's apartment felt like stepping into a different world. No pristine furniture chosen by my mother-in-law. No family photos of the perfect Dunn dynasty. Just comfortable chaos and the smell of coffee. Spill, Zuriel demanded, pushing a steaming mug into my hands. What happened? My phone buzzed for the 20th time. Jake again. I silenced it. They threw a party without me, on my birthday, to celebrate Jake's big account win. I took a sip of coffee, letting the warmth steady me. The account I basically handed to him on a silver platter. The Miller proposal? Zuriel's eyes widened. The one you've been killing yourself over for months? 3 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days. I pulled out my laptop, opening the files I'd brought with me. Look at this. Every presentation, every spreadsheet, every market analysis, all done by me. Jake just had to show up and smile. Zuriel leaned over my shoulder, scrolling through the documents. Holy shit, Sonia. This is everything. The entire business infrastructure. Funny thing about being invisible, I said, managing a small smile. People forget you're there. They leave their passwords lying around. They don't notice when you're copying files or learning their systems. My phone lit up again, this time with a text from Sophia. Where are you? Jake is freaking out. Mom's saying you're just being dramatic. Of course she is, I muttered, showing Zuriel the message. What are you going to do? Zuriel asked, settling onto her couch. You can stay here as long as you need, but I need a plan, I finished. I opened another folder on my laptop. this one containing something I'd been working on secretly for months. Remember Theo, Jake's old rival from business school? The one who started his own consulting firm? Yeah, why? He's been trying to expand into our market sector. 2 weeks ago, he reached out to me. Apparently, he'd heard through the grapevine who really runs the Dunn family business. Zuriel sat up straighter. Are you saying what I think you're saying? My phone buzzed again, an email this time from Lauren, my assistant at work. Mrs. Dunn, is everything okay? Mr. Dunn came in looking for you. He seems upset. I quickly typed back, Lauren, I need you to trust me. Don't tell anyone, but I won't be coming back to the office. Would you be interested in a new opportunity? You're going to start your own business, Zuriel said. It wasn't a question. With Theo's backing and Lauren's help? I nodded. I'm done being the ghostwriter of my own life. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Through the peephole, I saw Jake, looking disheveled. Don't answer it, I whispered to Zuriel. Zuriel, Jake called out. I know Sonia's in there. Her car's outside. Baby, please, let's talk about this. Zuriel and I stayed silent, watching his shadow under the door. Fine, he shouted after a few minutes. Be childish, but we need those files, Sonia. The Miller presentation is next week, and you have all the data. I smiled grimly. Exactly. After Jake's footsteps faded, Zuriel turned to me. You really thought this through, didn't you? I've had 7 years to think it through. I opened my email and started composing a message to Theo. 7 years of watching Jake take credit for my work. 7 years of his mother treating me like an accessory. 7 years of being the silent partner in my own marriage. My phone lit up with Lauren's response. Whatever you're planning, I'm in. This place is chaos without you already. Perfect, I murmured, adding her to the email to Theo. You know they're going to fight back, Zuriel warned. Emerson won't let you just walk away with their business secrets. Let them try. I hit send on the email to Theo. I've got copies of every email where Jake took credit for my work, every meeting where he presented my ideas as his own, every client relationship I built while he played golf. And the Miller account? I closed my laptop with a satisfying click. Jake has exactly 6 days to either admit to Miller Industries that he can't do the presentation without me or try to fake his way through it and lose the biggest account of the year. Either way, I win. Zuriel raised her coffee mug in a toast to no longer being invisible. I clinked my mug against hers, feeling a surge of excitement replace the hurt and anger. To becoming unforgettable. My phone buzzed one final time. Theo's response, meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Let's talk about your future. For the first time since discovering the party, I felt myself truly smile. They wanted to celebrate Jake's success without me? Fine. Let's see how much success they have when the real architect of that success decides to build something of her own. Theo's office was everything the Dunn family business wasn't. Modern, open, and welcoming. No dark wood paneling or stuffy oil paintings of previous generations. Just clean lines and natural light. I have to admit, Theo said, leaning back in his chair. I've been waiting for this day. Jake never deserved the success you built for him. Lauren sat beside me, nervously adjusting her tablet. She'd arrived early, bringing with her a complete breakdown of our current client portfolio. The Miller presentation is in 5 days, I said, getting straight to business. Jake doesn't have access to the final documents, and trust me, he can't recreate them from memory. Theo's eyes sparkled. And you want to use that leverage. I want to build something of my own, I corrected him. The leverage is just a bonus. My phone buzzed, a text from Emerson. This childish behavior needs to stop. Come home and we can discuss your concerns, like adults. I showed the message to Lauren, who rolled her eyes. She called me this morning trying to get me to access your files. I told her I didn't have your passwords. But you do, I smiled. Of course I do, Lauren grinned back. I just don't have them for her. Theo spread out some papers on his desk. Here's what I'm proposing. We create a new consulting division under my company's umbrella. You'll have complete autonomy, your own team, and a significant equity stake. Lauren can come on as your operations manager. And Miller? I asked. We approach them directly. Show them who really developed their strategy. My phone rang. Jake this time. Fourth call today. I declined it. He's getting desperate, Lauren noted. The Miller representatives have been calling all morning, asking for specific details about the implementation timeline. He keeps telling them you're under the weather. A new email popped up on my phone from Jake's lawyer. Subject line, cease and desist, confidential business information. Right on schedule, I muttered, opening the email. They're threatening legal action if I don't return all company documents and agree not to compete. Theo reached for the phone. May I? I handed it over, watching as he read the email, his smile growing wider. This is perfect, he said. They just admitted in writing that you possessed and created these materials. Makes it much easier to prove your contribution when we counter. Counter? Lauren asked. With evidence of intellectual property theft, I explained. Every time Jake presented my work as his own, he was essentially stealing it. I've documented everything. My phone buzzed again, Sophia this time. Mom's talking about calling the police. Please, Sonia, just come talk to us. The police? Lauren looked worried. Empty threat, Theo assured her. They won't involve law enforcement because they can't prove you didn't have authority to access those files. You were, after all, a key executive in the company. Not officially, I said bitterly. On paper, I was just Jake's wife who helped out sometimes. Which makes their legal position even weaker, Theo pointed out. They can't claim you stole company secrets while also claiming you were just a housewife. A notification popped up on my laptop, an email from Miller Industries, requesting clarification on project leadership. Perfect timing, I smiled, opening the email. They're asking who will be handling their account going forward. Apparently, Jake's answers in their morning call weren't very convincing. What are you going to do? Lauren asked. I started typing. Dear Mr. Miller, I apologize for any confusion. As the architect of your proposed strategy, I want to inform you of some recent changes. They'll be furious, Lauren whispered. They already are, I replied, hitting send. Might as well give them a real reason. Theo stood up, walking to his office window. 5 years ago, Jake stole a major client from me, used inside information he got from a mutual friend. I lost millions. I remember, I said quietly. I'm the one who told him not to do it. And now, here we are. Theo turned back to us. Ready to sign the paperwork? I looked at Lauren, who nodded enthusiastically. Then at my phone, where messages from Jake, Emerson, and Sophia continued to pile up. Finally, at the contract Theo had prepared, offering me everything I'd earned but never received at the Dunn family business. One condition, I said, picking up the pen. We do this right. No shortcuts, no tricks. Just better service, better strategies, and better leadership than they ever had. Of course, Theo agreed. The best revenge is massive success. As I signed my name, my phone lit up with a response from Miller Industries. Meeting requested to discuss transition of services. I looked at Lauren and Theo, my new team, and felt a surge of confidence. Shall we show them how it's really done? The answer was written in their matching smiles. The invisible woman was about to become impossible to ignore. Mrs. Miller is ready for you now, the receptionist announced, gesturing toward the corner office. 1 month had passed since I'd left Jake, and here I was, presenting to Miller Industries. this time under my own name. Lauren squeezed my arm supportively as we entered the office. Sonia, Mrs. Miller stood, extending her hand. I must say, your email certainly caught our attention, though not as much as your husband's. Interesting attempt at presenting your strategy last week. I kept my expression neutral. I apologize for any confusion during the transition. Confusion? Mrs. Miller laughed. The man couldn't explain basic concepts that were in his own proposal. That's when I knew something was wrong. She gestured to the chairs in front of her desk. Please sit. Tell me why I should trust you after this mess. I opened my laptop, pulling up the presentation I'd spent the last week refining. Because I'm going to show you exactly how I developed every aspect of this strategy, and then I'm going to improve it. 2 hours later, we walked out with a signed contract. Lauren was practically bouncing. Did you see her face when you broke down the market analysis? She couldn't believe Jake tried to pass that off as his work. My phone buzzed. A text from Zuriel. Emergency, come to my place now. What's wrong? I asked when we arrived at her apartment 20 minutes later. Zuriel pointed to her TV, where a local business news channel was running a story. Jake stood at a podium, Emerson by his side. Regret to announce that due to internal restructuring, Dunn Consulting will be scaling back operations temporarily, he was saying, looking haggard. We remain committed to our clients. They're losing accounts, Lauren whispered, scrolling through her phone. Not just Miller. 3 other major clients have jumped ship this week because Jake can't handle the workload without you, Zuriel added. And apparently, Emerson's attempts to step in are making things worse. My phone rang. Sophia. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. How could you do this to us? She demanded. Mom's talking about selling the beach house to keep the company afloat. I didn't do anything to you, Sophia. I just stopped doing everything for you. The Miller account was worth millions, and now they're gone, along with half our client base. They're gone because Jake couldn't deliver what he promised, I replied calmly. Maybe he should have thought about that before taking credit for my work all these years. Mom wants to sue you, Sophia warned. She's meeting with lawyers right now. Good luck with that. I ended the call, turning back to the TV where Jake was still speaking. Look at him, Lauren marveled. He really thought he could handle it all without you. He thought I would come crawling back, I corrected her. They all did. That's why they started with threats instead of apologies. My laptop pinged. An email from Theo. 3 more clients requesting meetings. Your reputation is spreading. How soon can you start expanding the team? Speaking of expanding, Lauren said, pulling out her tablet. Remember Thomas from accounting? He reached out, says he's tired of Emerson's micromanaging and wants to join us. I smiled. Set up a meeting. They're going to call it poaching, Zuriel warned. They can call it whatever they want. I'm not stopping anyone from staying with them. I'm just offering a better option. My phone buzzed again. An email from Emerson's lawyer, marked urgent. I opened it, reading aloud. Cease and desist all communication with Dunn Consulting clients and employees. Immediate legal action. Damages? Lauren snorted. They do realize most of those clients are reaching out to us, right? They're desperate, Zuriel observed. The company's been running on your work for so long, they don't know how to function without it. Another news alert popped up on my phone. Dunn Consulting stock drops 30% amid client exodus. You know what the funny thing is, I said, watching Jake's strained face on TV. All they had to do was appreciate me. One birthday remembered, one honest acknowledgement of my contributions. But they didn't, Lauren finished, and now they're learning the hard way. My phone lit up with a new message from Mrs. Miller. Excellent presentation today. Looking forward to working with the real brains behind the operation. I showed the message to Lauren and Zuriel, feeling a surge of pride. No more hiding in the shadows. No more letting others take credit for my success. To the real brains, Zuriel raised her coffee mug in a toast. Lauren raised hers too. And to the Dunns finally getting exactly what they deserve. I joined their toast, watching Jake's press conference end on TV. He looked lost, overwhelmed, exactly how he should have felt all those years he was presenting my work as his own. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying others. Sometimes it's simply about claiming what was yours all along. The cafe was crowded, but I spotted Emerson immediately. She sat ramrod straight at a corner table, her designer handbag placed precisely in front of her. 2 months had aged her noticeably. "Sonia," she said as I approached, "thank you for meeting me." I sat down, noting the slight tremor in her perfectly manicured hands. "You said it was important." "It's about Jake," she began, then paused as the waiter approached. "Just water, thank you." "Americano for me," I said, then turned back to her. "What about Jake?" "He's struggling. The business is falling apart. He's not sleeping, barely eating." She leaned forward. "We need you back." "You need me back," I corrected. "There's a difference. I'm willing to offer you a formal position, executive vice president, with full credit for your work going forward. And," she swallowed hard, "a public acknowledgement of your past contributions." My phone buzzed. Lauren sending our latest client acquisition numbers. I showed them to Emerson, watching her face fall. "Your company has lost 60% of its value," I said quietly. "Meanwhile, my division at Theo's firm has tripled in size. Why would I go back?" "Because it's your family," she snapped, then quickly composed herself. "We're your family, Sonia." "Family?" I laughed. "You've spent 7 years treating me like an unwanted house guest. You couldn't even remember my birthday." "That was a mistake." "No," I cut her off. "A mistake is buying the wrong gift. What you did, what all of you did, was show me exactly where I stood in the family hierarchy." The waiter brought our drinks. I took a sip of my coffee, watching Emerson's carefully constructed facade crack. "There's something else," she said finally. "Something Jake doesn't know I found." She pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table. Inside were printed emails, dozens of them, between Jake and his ex-girlfriend from 2 years ago. "He was planning to leave you," Emerson said softly, "but then you landed the Patterson account, and he realized how valuable you were to the business." My hands shook as I read the messages. Jake discussing divorce plans, calculating how to protect the company, his ex offering to help him get rid of the dead weight. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I stopped him," Emerson said. "I convinced him that you were an asset we couldn't lose. I protected you." I stared at her, realization dawning. "You protected the business, not me. You knew I was doing all the work, and you were afraid of losing that. I made a choice that benefited everyone. You made a choice to keep me in the dark, working for a husband who wanted to divorce me, while you all took credit for my success." I stood up, gathering the emails. "Thank you for these. They'll make excellent evidence in the divorce proceedings." "Divorce?" Emerson paled. "But I'm offering you everything you wanted. Recognition, power, your name on the door." "No," I said, pulling out my phone to show her our company website. "I already have my name on a door, one I built myself." My phone buzzed again, a message from Jake. "Mom told me she's meeting you. Please come home. We can fix this." I showed Emerson the message. "Does he know you're showing me these emails?" She looked away. "I'm doing what needs to be done to save our company." "Your company," I corrected her, "and you're not trying to save it. You're trying to save yourself. How many loans have you personally guaranteed?" Her silence was answer enough. That's what I thought. I gathered my things. "Thank you for the emails, Emerson, and for finally showing me the truth about my family." "Wait," she called as I turned to leave. What are you going to do? I looked back at her, this woman who had orchestrated my imprisonment in a loveless marriage for the sake of profit. I'm going to do what you taught me to do, protect my interests. Outside, I called Lauren. Remember that expansion plan we discussed? Let's accelerate it and call our lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. Are you okay? She asked. I looked through the cafe window at Emerson, now frantically typing on her phone, probably warning Jake. I'm better than okay. I'm finally free. My phone lit up with another message, this one from Theo. Major investment firm wants to meet. They're impressed with our growth. I smiled, thinking of the emails in my bag. Sometimes the universe has a way of revealing truths at exactly the right moment. Emerson had tried to play her last card, but all she'd done was give me the final push I needed. Time to show them what the dead weight could really do. Jake was waiting outside my office building when I left work. 3 months since I'd last seen him, and he looked like he'd aged years. His usually immaculate suit was wrinkled, his hair unkempt. We need to talk, he said, stepping forward, about the emails Mom showed you. There's nothing to talk about. I tried to walk past him, but he blocked my path. I never sent them, he blurted out. Those emails to Rebecca, I drafted them but never sent them. Mom found them in my deleted folder. I laughed, the sound harsh in the evening air. That's your defense? That you only thought about leaving me while taking credit for my work? I was scared, he admitted. You were becoming so essential to everything, and I felt redundant. Rebecca reached out at a weak moment. Mr. Dunn, Lauren's voice cut through the tension. She stood in the doorway, phone in hand. Should I call security? Jake raised his hands. No need, I just want 5 minutes. Please, Sonia. I nodded to Lauren. It's okay, I'll handle this. We walked to the small park across the street, the same park where we'd once planned our future during lunch breaks, before I became his ghostwriter instead of his partner. The company's failing, he said, sitting heavily on a bench. Mom's leveraged everything trying to keep it afloat. The beach house, her retirement fund. I know, Sophia told me. We had an offer this morning, hostile takeover. He ran his hands through his hair. They know we're vulnerable without you. My phone buzzed. Theo sending the latest market analysis. Our firm had just landed another major client, one that used to be Jake's. What do you want from me, Jake? Come back, he said quickly. Not as my wife if you don't want to, but as a full partner. 50-50 split. Your name on everything. Like the Miller presentation? I asked sharply. Or the Patterson account? Or any of the other deals you took credit for? I was wrong, he admitted. I got used to the praise, to being the golden boy. It was easier to let everyone think I was the genius. While I worked until midnight, missing dinners, events, my own life. I know, God, I know. He turned to face me. But I loved you, Sonia. I still do. I pulled out my phone, opening the photos I'd saved of his emails to Rebecca. Dead weight was the term you used. Holding you back from your true potential. I was an idiot. No, I cut him off. You were honest. For once in our marriage, those emails showed exactly what you thought of me. A notification popped up on my phone, the investment firm Theo had mentioned, confirming tomorrow's meeting. They were interested in backing our expansion into international markets. You're really doing it, aren't you? Jake said, noticing my small smile. Building your own empire? The difference is, I'm building it honestly. Every success, every failure, they're really mine. And ours were really yours too, he said quietly. All of them. I just took the applause. Lauren appeared at the park entrance, pointing at her watch. We had a client dinner in 30 minutes. I have to go. I stood up. The divorce papers are with your lawyer. Sign them, Jake. Let me go. And the company? Keep it. Or sell it. That's not my problem anymore. He grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. What about your clients? The ones who've known us for years? They knew me. I corrected him, pulling free. They just didn't know it was me. Now they do. Sonia, please. You want to know the saddest part? I interrupted. If you had just remembered my birthday, if any of you had, I might still be there, still working in the shadows. But you couldn't even give me that one day. I'll make it right, he promised. Whatever it takes. You already did, I said, walking away. You showed me exactly what I'm worth, by showing me what you're worth without me. Lauren met me at the park entrance. Everything okay? I looked back at Jake, still sitting on the bench, head in his hands. The golden boy who'd built his success on my invisible foundation. Now he knew what it felt like to be the invisible one. Everything's perfect, I replied. What time is the dinner? 7, and Theo called. The investment firm's bringing their full board tomorrow. They're very interested in your vision for international expansion. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Sophia. Jake told me about the takeover offer. Please help us. I deleted it without responding. They'd had 7 years of my help. Now it was time to help myself. Let's go show them what visible leadership looks like, I said to Lauren, walking toward our waiting car. Behind us, Jake remained on the bench, watching his empire crumble while mine rose from its ashes. The boardroom fell silent as I finished my presentation. 6 months had passed since I'd left Jake, and here I was, presenting to the investment firm's board, this time as CEO of my own division. Impressive numbers, the lead investor said, studying the quarterly reports. You've managed to capture 40% of your previous company's market share in just half a year, along with expanding into 3 new sectors, Theo added proudly. My phone buzzed, a news alert about Dunn Consulting. I quickly scanned it under the table. Major family business faces bankruptcy. Dunn Consulting to auction office assets. Ms. Sonia, another board member leaned forward. There are rumors that your former company is facing liquidation. Any comments? Before I could answer, Lauren burst into the room. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She handed me her tablet, displaying a live video feed from outside Dunn Consulting's headquarters. Emerson stood at a podium, makeup perfectly applied despite her obvious distress. Regretfully announcing the closure of Dunn Consulting, she was saying. However, we have one final statement to make. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Sonia, if you're watching this, we were wrong, all of us. The success of this company was built on your work, your dedication, and your brilliance. I should have acknowledged that long ago. The board members watched intently as I set the tablet down. A bit late for recognition, isn't it? One of them commented. 6 months too late, I agreed, then turned back to my presentation. Now, about our international expansion plans. After the meeting, Lauren caught up with me in my office. They're offering us the full investment package. Theo's already reviewing the terms. Good, I nodded, then noticed her hesitation. What else? Jake's downstairs. Says he won't leave until you talk to him. I sighed, looking out my office window. Sure enough, Jake stood by the entrance, still in his suit but looking decidedly less polished than in his glory days. Send him up. Minutes later, Jake walked in, clutching a familiar leather portfolio, the one I'd used for years to prepare his presentations. I found this in my office while we were packing up, he said, placing it on my desk. All your original notes, your strategies. I never even read them properly before, just skimmed enough to present them as mine. Why are you here, Jake? The bankruptcy paperwork is being filed tomorrow. He sat heavily in the chair across from me. Mom's lost everything trying to save the company. Sophia's husband is talking about divorce because she guaranteed some of the loans. And you want me to help? Again? No, he said quietly. I want to apologize, really apologize, not just because we're desperate. He pulled out an envelope. I signed the divorce papers. You're free. My phone buzzed. Another news alert. Dunn family assets frozen pending investigation. Investigation? I looked up at Jake. Mom's creative accounting is coming to light, he admitted. Turns out she's been hiding losses for years, even before you left. That's why she pushed me so hard to keep you around. You were the only thing keeping us profitable. Lauren appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but Mrs. Miller is on line 1. Says it's urgent. I picked up the phone, putting it on speaker. Mrs. Miller, what can I do for you? I just watched Emerson's press conference, she said. I wanted you to know, every client who moved their business to you, we talk. We all knew you were the real talent. We were just waiting for you to realize it too. Jake flinched at her words. After ending the call, I opened the leather portfolio. Inside were years of my work, my ideas, my success, all credited to others. You know what the worst part was? I said to Jake. I would have shared the credit. If you just acknowledged me as a partner instead of a prop, I would have stayed. I know that now. He stood up. For what it's worth, I really am proud of what you've built here. You deserve it all. As he reached the door, he turned back. Oh, and Sonia, happy birthday. It's today, right? I finally remembered. I waited until he left before opening my desk drawer, pulling out the birthday card Zuriel had given me that morning. Inside, she'd written, "To the woman who turned invisibility into invincibility." My phone lit up with a message from Theo. Board approved the full investment. Ready to go global? Lauren poked her head in. Should I send out the press release about the investment? I looked at the leather portfolio, then at the signed divorce papers, finally at the news headlines about the Dunn family's fall from grace. Yes, I said, standing up, but add one line. This expansion is dedicated to every person who's ever been invisible in their own success story. Lauren smiled. Perfect. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about building yourself up so high that they can't help but see you, even if they're looking up from rock bottom. And sometimes the greatest birthday gift you can give yourself is the power to write your own story. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee from the new cafe across the street as I walked into my office building. The lobby's wall-mounted TV displayed the business news. Rising Star CEO named Business Leader of the Year. They used your good photo, Lauren teased, falling into step beside me. The one where you're not smiling like you're plotting someone's downfall. I never plot downfalls, I protested. They manage that perfectly well on their own. My phone buzzed. Sophia requesting a meeting. Again. She's persistent, Lauren noted, reading over my shoulder. 3rd time this week. 4th, I corrected. She cornered me at the grocery store yesterday. The elevator opened to reveal Theo waiting in my office. Have you seen today's business journal? He handed me the magazine. There on the cover was a photo of me standing in front of our new headquarters, arms crossed, looking exactly like someone plotting downfalls. The headline read, "The Invisible Empire, How One Woman Turned Corporate Shadows into Spotlight Success." Page 16, Theo said, grinning. I flipped to it and found a familiar face. Emerson being escorted from court in handcuffs. The article detailed her conviction for financial fraud and embezzlement. Hard to believe she thought she could hide it forever. Lauren mused. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Jake. Mom's sentenced to 3 years. Sophia's divorce is final. I'm moving to Seattle for a fresh start. Thank you for not pressing additional charges. Speaking of Sophia, I said, what do you think she wants? Why don't you ask her yourself? Lauren pointed through the glass walls to where Sophia stood by the reception desk, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. I nodded to Lauren. Send her in. Sophia looked different, less polished, more human. She perched on the edge of the visitor's chair like she might flee at any moment. "I got a job offer," she blurted out. "A real one, entry-level marketing position." "That's good?" "It's at one of your competitors' firms." She twisted her hands together. "I wanted to make sure, I know how it might look." "Sophia," I interrupted, "are you asking my permission to take a job?" "I'm asking if you'll give me a reference," she whispered. "Everyone knows I'm toxic now because of Mom's scandal, but they also know I'm your former sister-in-law. Your word carries weight." I studied her, this woman who'd watched her mother and brother take advantage of me for years, but also the woman who'd just lost everything and was trying to rebuild. "Why should I help you?" "Because you taught me something," she said, straightening her spine. "When everything fell apart, when Mom went to jail and Jake ran away, I realized I'd been living in their shadow just like you were. The difference is, you did something about it." My phone lit up with another message, Mrs. Miller asking about our upcoming charity gala. The same gala the Dunns used to host, where I'd always been seated at the back. "The job," I asked Sophia. "What exactly would you be doing?" "Assistant marketing coordinator. Basic stuff, social media, event planning." "And you'd be okay starting at the bottom? No shortcuts, no family connections?" She nodded firmly. "I want to earn something for myself, like you did." I opened my laptop, started typing. "I'm sending your potential employer an email. I'm going to tell them exactly who you are and what your family did." Sophia's face fell. "And then," I continued, "I'm going to tell them how you came here today, asking for nothing but a chance to prove yourself, just like I once needed." Tears welled in her eyes. "Really? Really?" I hit send. "But Sophia, don't waste this chance." "I won't," she promised, standing up. At the door, she paused. "You know, Jake kept your birthday card on his desk, the one you left the night you walked out. I think he finally understood what he lost wasn't just the business." After she left, Lauren brought in coffee. "That was generous of you." "It was strategic," I corrected her. "Sometimes the best way to maintain power is to help others find theirs." My phone buzzed one final time. Zuriel sending a photo of the birthday cake she'd ordered for our celebration dinner tonight. The icing read, "To the woman who made herself impossible to forget." I smiled, looking out at the city skyline. My skyline now. The invisible woman had built her empire, not by tearing others down, but by rising so high they had no choice but to see her. "Lauren," I called out, "let's move that charity gala to the main ballroom and make sure everyone can see who's hosting it now." Sometimes the best endings aren't about revenge at all. They're about becoming exactly who you were meant to be, visible, powerful, and impossible to ignore.
I always imagined my wedding day would be perfect. Instead, I'm standing here in my custom-made dress, watching my future mother-in-law steal my thunder with what has to be the most ridiculous pregnancy announcement I've ever heard. My name is Felicity, and this was supposed to be my moment. Sean and I had planned everything down to the last detail. The garden ceremony, the string quartet, even the exact shade of blue for the hydrangeas. But apparently, Cassandra had other plans. I just couldn't keep it in any longer. She practically squealed into the microphone she'd somehow acquired during the father of the bride's speech. "Sean, darling, you're going to be a big brother." The guests collectively gasped. I watched in horror as my perfectly choreographed wedding dissolved into chaos. Sean's face turned an alarming shade of white beside me. "Mom," he stammered, "what are you talking about?" My sister Ruby caught my eye from the bridal party, mouthing, "What the actual fuck?" I couldn't have agreed more. Cassandra was practically glowing with attention as she continued. "Bob and I wanted to wait until after the wedding, but I just couldn't contain my joy any longer." She placed her hand dramatically over her stomach, which I noticed looked suspiciously rounded in her tight-fitting dress. The thing about Cassandra is that she's always been like this, always needing to be the center of attention. When Sean first introduced me to her 3 years ago, she spent the entire dinner talking about her recent divorce from Sean's father and her new relationship with Bob. During our engagement party, she announced she was writing a tell-all book about her life. But this was a new low. I felt Sean's hand trembling in mine. The poor guy looked like he was about to pass out. Around us, whispers rippled through the crowd. I could see my best friend Paige shaking her head in disbelief. That's when something inside me snapped. 3 years of dealing with Cassandra's drama, and I was done. Without missing a beat, I grabbed the microphone from her manicured hands. "Oh my goodness, Cassandra," I exclaimed, matching her enthusiasm. "What a coincidence. Sean and I were planning to announce after the ceremony that we're expecting two." The room fell silent. Sean's head whipped toward me so fast I thought he might get whiplash. "That's right," I continued, watching Cassandra's face fall. "We're going to be one big happy family. Mother and daughter-in-law, pregnant together. Isn't that just magical?" But, Cassandra sputtered, her perfectly lined lips opening and closing like a fish out of water. "You can't be." "Oh, but I am," I said, patting my own stomach. "About 8 weeks along. We wanted to keep it private, but since we're sharing family news," that's when Sean, my wonderful, overwhelmed fiancé, did something I hadn't anticipated. He fainted, just straight up, collapsed next to me, hitting the floor with a thud that echoed through the reception hall. "Sean!" Cassandra shrieked, rushing forward. "Don't worry," I said, kneeling beside him in my wedding dress. "Paige is a nurse." Paige, my best friend, was already there, checking Sean's pulse and putting him in the recovery position. The wedding guests had abandoned their seats and formed a circle around us, phones out, probably already posting on social media. "Give him some space," Ruby commanded, using her teacher voice to shepherd people back. As I knelt there, holding Sean's hand and watching him slowly come around, I caught Cassandra's eye. She was staring at me with a mixture of shock and something else. Calculation, maybe. That's when I knew this was just the beginning. "Felicity," Sean mumbled, as his eyes fluttered open. "Did my mom just say she's pregnant?" "Yes, honey," I replied, stroking his face. "And apparently, so am I." His eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought he might faint again. But instead, he just looked at me with complete confusion. "But we haven't." "Shh," I whispered, helping him sit up. "We'll talk later." I could feel Cassandra's eyes boring into my back as the wedding planner, Jonathan, started ushering people toward the reception area, announcing that we'd take a short break before continuing with the ceremony. Ruby appeared at my side, gripping my arm. "Girl, what did you just do?" I watched Cassandra being led away by Bob, her perfect makeup slightly smeared, her moment of triumph thoroughly derailed. "I have no idea," I replied honestly, "but I'm pretty sure I just started a war." Ruby squeezed my arm. "Well, if it's a war she wants, she picked the wrong bride to mess with." Looking at my sister's fierce expression, I couldn't help but smile. This definitely wasn't the wedding day I'd planned, but maybe it was the one I needed. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, or in this case, a fake pregnancy with a fake pregnancy. The bridal suite had become a war room. Sean sat on the plush ottoman, holding an ice pack to his head, while I paced back and forth, my wedding dress swishing with each turn. "Let me get this straight," he said, his voice still shaky. "You told everyone you're pregnant to get back at my mother." "No, I told everyone I'm pregnant because your mother chose our wedding day to announce her clearly fabricated pregnancy." I stopped pacing and faced him. "Sean, she's 54. It's not impossible," he mumbled, but I could see doubt creeping into his expression. Ruby burst through the door, followed by Paige. "Coast is clear. Jonathan's keeping the guests entertained with an extended cocktail hour." "How's your head?" Paige asked Sean, switching into nurse mode. "I'm fine," he waved her off. "I'm more concerned about what just happened out there. Felicity, we need to tell everyone the truth." "Like your mother's telling the truth," I shot back. That's different, is it? I sat next to him. Remember last Christmas, when she pretended to have food poisoning because you were spending the holiday with my family? Or when she accidentally scheduled her surgery the same week as our engagement party? Sean's face darkened. Those were coincidences. Oh, honey, Paige interjected. Those weren't coincidences. That woman has more tricks than a magician's convention. Ruby perched on the armrest beside me. Speaking of tricks, I just overheard something interesting. Apparently, Cassandra's been visiting some fancy medical spa in the city, the same one that specializes in hormone therapy and, wait for it, cosmetic procedures. What kind of procedures? I leaned forward. The kind that might make someone look. Ruby gestured vaguely at her midsection, expectant. Sean stood up abruptly, dropping the ice pack. This is crazy. You're all crazy. My mother wouldn't. A sharp knock interrupted him. Jonathan poked his head in, his usual calm demeanor slightly frazzled. We have a situation. Cassandra's demanding we continue the ceremony immediately, but she wants to make a few minor adjustments to the seating arrangement and the speeches. Of course she does, I muttered. She also mentioned something about wanting to coordinate baby shower dates, Jonathan added with a grimace. I felt a headache coming on. Tell her we'll be out in 5 minutes. After Jonathan left, Sean turned to me. We need to fix this. Both of us, you and my mother, need to come clean. Sean, I took his hands in mine. I love you, but your mother has been trying to control our relationship from day one. Remember when she showed up unannounced at our apartment at midnight because she had a feeling you were in danger? I was sleeping, he admitted. Exactly. Or when she tried to convince you I was secretly married before because she saw a wedding photo on my Instagram. That was my cousin's wedding, I added. I was a bridesmaid. Okay, maybe she can be a bit intense, Sean conceded. Paige snorted. Intense? A ghost pepper is intense. Your mother is psychological warfare in designer heels. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the door, we could hear Cassandra's voice getting louder. I just need to speak with my son. It's a medical emergency. Ruby rolled her eyes. Right on cue. I squared my shoulders and smoothed my dress. Sean, I know this isn't ideal, but trust me, sometimes you have to fight manipulation with manipulation. By pretending to be pregnant. By giving her a taste of her own medicine. I touched his cheek gently. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this to protect us. Before he could respond, the door burst open. Cassandra stood there, one hand on her suddenly very prominent belly, the other clutching her chest. Sean, darling, I'm feeling faint. The excitement, the baby. I watched my fiancé's face, seeing the familiar worry lines appear, but then something changed. He glanced at me, then back at his mother, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Mom, he said firmly, the ceremony will continue as planned. No changes. Cassandra's mouth fell open. But, no changes, he repeated, standing straighter. And afterward, we're all going to have a long talk about boundaries. I couldn't hide my smile as Cassandra backed out of the room, looking stunned. Sean turned to me, his expression serious but soft. I'm not happy about this pregnancy story, he said quietly, but maybe it's time someone stood up to her. Ruby clapped her hands. Great. Now that that's settled, let's get you two married before anyone else announces they're expecting. I'm looking at you, Paige. Hey. Paige laughed, throwing a tissue box at her. As we prepared to return to the ceremony, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I might have started this game of chicken with Cassandra, but something told me she wasn't going to back down easily. This wedding was just the beginning. The morning after our wedding, I found myself sitting in Paige's kitchen, surrounded by newspaper clippings and old photos she'd somehow managed to dig up overnight. My coffee had gone cold, forgotten in the midst of our impromptu investigation into the Wilson family history. Look at this, Paige said, sliding a yellowed newspaper article across the table. 15 years ago, Cassandra made headlines for disrupting her sister-in-law's charity gala with a dramatic health scare. Let me guess, it turned out to be nothing. Bingo. But by then, all attention had shifted from the charity to her brave recovery. Ruby walked in, balancing 3 fresh cups of coffee. You won't believe what I just found out from Jonathan. Apparently, Cassandra's been calling all the local baby boutiques, setting up private shopping appointments. She's really committing to this charade, I muttered, reaching for my phone as it buzzed with another message from Sean. He'd gone to have breakfast with his mother, trying to smooth things over. There's more, Ruby continued, pulling up a chair. I got curious and called Dad's old law firm. Guess who handled Cassandra's divorce from Sean's father? Who? Aunt Laurel. I nearly spilled my coffee. Our Aunt Laurel. The one who refuses to even talk about the Wilsons. The very same. Ruby leaned forward. And get this. She's willing to talk now. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a text from Sean. We need to talk. Coming over. 20 minutes later, Sean burst through Paige's front door, looking like he'd aged 10 years over breakfast. She's planning a joint baby shower, he announced, collapsing onto the couch. For next month, she's already booked the country club. Next month? I exchanged alarmed looks with Ruby. That's ambitious. She says she wants to do it before either of us starts showing too much. He ran his hands through his hair. Felicity, this is getting out of hand. Getting, Paige snorted. It got out of hand the moment she hijacked your wedding with her geriatric pregnancy announcement. Has anyone actually seen her medical records? Ruby asked. Or her doctor? Sean shifted uncomfortably. She says Dr. Harrison is handling everything. Dr. Harrison. Paige's eyebrows shot up. The plastic surgeon. A heavy knock at the door made us all jump. Jonathan stood there, looking uncharacteristically nervous. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. He held up his tablet, showing a social media post. Cassandra just announced she's having twins. Twins, we all shouted in unison. It gets better, Jonathan scrolled down. She's tagged Sean's father in the post. Sean bolted upright. My dad. But they haven't spoken in years. I grabbed the tablet, reading the post aloud. Overjoyed to announce we're expecting twins. Can't wait to share this blessing with all family members, even those who've been distant. Time to come home, Brian. She's trying to force your father back into the picture, I realized. This isn't just about upstaging our wedding anymore. Sean's phone started ringing, his father's name flashing on the screen. He stared at it like it might explode. Answer it, I urged. Maybe he knows something we don't. Sean stepped into the other room, and we all tried and failed not to eavesdrop on his side of the conversation. Dad, yeah, I saw the post. No, I had no idea she was going to. Wait, what do you mean you have proof? When he returned, his face was ashen. My dad's coming to town. Says he has something we need to see about Mom's pattern of behavior. Pattern? Ruby perked up. Apparently, this isn't the first time she's pulled something like this. Dad mentioned something about documents from their divorce. A letter slid under Paige's door, making us all start. Jonathan retrieved it. A cream-colored envelope addressed to me in elegant handwriting. It's from Aunt Laurel, I said, opening it. My eyes widened as I read. Holy shit! What? Everyone demanded. Aunt Laurel didn't just handle the divorce. She has proof that Cassandra faked a pregnancy back then, too, to try to stop Brian from leaving. Sean sank back into the couch. That's impossible. I would have known. Would you? I asked gently. You were 16, and according to this, she conveniently lost the baby right after your father agreed to a better divorce settlement. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Ruby spoke up. So what's the plan? I looked at Sean, seeing the hurt and confusion in his eyes, but also a growing resolve. First, I said, we meet with your father and Aunt Laurel. Then, I picked up the tablet with Cassandra's twins announcement. We give your mother exactly what she wants. Attention, just not the kind she's expecting. The baby shower, Paige grinned wickedly. The baby shower, I confirmed. If Cassandra wants to play pregnant, let's see how she handles a spotlight she can't control. You need to tell me the truth right now, Sean demanded, pacing our living room. Are you really pregnant? I set down my tea and met his gaze. No, I'm not. The silence that followed felt heavier than my fake pregnancy belly padding Cassandra had helpfully sent over that morning. I can't believe you lied to me, to everyone. His voice cracked. In front of our entire family. Your mother backed me into a corner. I stood up. What was I supposed to do? Let her hijack our wedding with her obvious lie. So you countered with another lie. He ran his hands through his hair. That makes you just as bad as... The doorbell interrupted our argument. Through the peephole, I saw Cassandra, wearing a fitted dress that emphasized her mysteriously growing bump. Perfect timing, I muttered, opening the door. Darling, Cassandra breezed in, air kissing my cheeks. I brought you some pregnancy-safe tea and the most darling little onesies. She paused, taking in the tension. Oh dear, is everything all right? Morning sickness can be so difficult in these early stages. Mom, what are you doing here? Sean asked wearily. Can't a mother check on her pregnant son and daughter-in-law? She settled onto our couch, arranging her dress to highlight her belly. Especially when we're all in this together. The doorbell rang again. This time, it was Ruby, followed closely by Paige. Oh good. The gang's all here. Cassandra smiled tightly. I was just telling Sean and Felicity about the wonderful prenatal yoga instructor I've found. She specializes in geriatric pregnancies. Geriatric? Paige raised an eyebrow. Isn't that for pregnancies over 35? Well, yes. Cassandra waved dismissively. But she's very experienced with unique situations. Speaking of unique situations, Ruby interjected. We ran into the most interesting person at the coffee shop this morning. Brian. The color drained from Cassandra's face. Brian. My Brian. Your ex-husband Brian, I corrected. Sean's father, Brian. The one you tagged in your twins' announcement. He's here? Cassandra's hand fluttered to her throat. Right here, came a deep voice from the doorway. Brian stood there, looking exactly like an older version of Sean, holding a manila envelope. What's in the envelope, Dad? Sean asked quietly. Evidence, Brian replied, stepping into the room. Medical records, legal documents, and some very interesting correspondence from 1998. Cassandra jumped up with surprising agility for someone supposedly carrying twins. Those are private. We're private, Brian corrected. Until you dragged me into your latest performance by tagging me in that ridiculous post. How dare you? Cassandra's voice rose. I'm carrying precious new life. Like you were carrying precious new life when you tried to stop our divorce? Brian cut in. Those records show you were never pregnant then, Cassandra, just like you're not pregnant now. The room fell silent. Sean looked between his parents, his face a mask of confusion and dawning realization. Mom, his voice sounded small, like a child's. Is this true? Of course not, Cassandra protested. Your father is just jealous that I've found happiness with Bob. Bob left town 3 days ago, Paige interrupted. I saw him at the airport. He seemed pretty surprised to hear about your pregnancy announcement. Cassandra's face contorted. She spun to face me. This is your doing. You've turned everyone against me. You and your perfect little wedding, and your perfect little pregnancy. I'm not pregnant, I said clearly. I lied because you lied first. Ha! Cassandra pointed triumphantly. See, she admits she's a liar. Yes, I agreed calmly. I told one lie, at our wedding. To counter your lie, but you've been lying for decades, haven't you? Brian opened the envelope, spreading documents across the coffee table. Medical records, legal papers, old photographs, a paper trail of deception spanning years. It's over, Cassandra, Brian said quietly. Stop before you hurt Sean any more than you already have. Sean picked up one of the documents, his hands shaking. You faked a miscarriage to get a better divorce settlement? Sweetheart, I can explain. No. Sean cut her off. No more explanations, no more lies. He turned to me. I'm sorry I got angry about your lie. I understand now why you did it. Cassandra looked around the room, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. "This isn't fair. I'm your mother." "Yes, you are," Sean said. "But that doesn't give you the right to manipulate everyone around you." "I think you should leave," I suggested firmly. Cassandra gathered her designer purse, her movements jerky and uncertain. At the door, she turned back. "This isn't over." "Actually," Brian held up the envelope. "It is, unless you want these documents to become very public." After she left, Sean collapsed onto the couch, staring at the evidence of his mother's decades of deception. "What do we do now?" he asked. Ruby picked up one of the onesies Cassandra had brought. "Well, first we return these, then we start planning that baby shower." After all, she did book the country club. "You can't be serious," Sean started, then saw our expressions. "Oh God, you are serious." "Dead serious," I confirmed. "Your mother wants attention. Let's give her exactly what she deserves." The country club's private dining room buzzed with activity as Brian shared more details about Cassandra's past schemes. We sat around a large table, empty coffee cups scattered between stacks of old photos and documents. "She once convinced my entire board of directors that she had a rare tropical disease," Brian explained, sliding another photo across the table, "just to stop me from accepting a job in Seattle." "That's her in the hospital bed?" Ruby squinted at the image, with what looks like grocery store makeup to appear sickly. "Bingo," Brian nodded. "Cost me the job of a lifetime." Sean picked up another document, and this one, from my high school graduation. "Ah, the mysterious fainting spell that prevented you from going on that summer trip with your friends." Brian's expression darkened. "The one where you were planning to visit colleges without her input." "Jesus," Sean muttered. "How did I never see it?" Jonathan, who'd been quietly taking notes, looked up from his tablet. "Because she's good at what she does. Speaking of which, she's just posted another pregnancy update on social media." We all crowded around to look. There was Cassandra, posed in what appeared to be a professional photo shoot, cradling her bump in a flowing maternal dress. "Blessed with twins at 54, Paige read aloud, rolling her eyes. "Age is just a number when miracles happen." "Give me a break." "Wait," I pointed at the screen. "Look at the location tag. Dr. Harrison's Medical Spa," Ruby read. "Isn't that the place that specializes in cosmetic procedures?" Sean finished, "including prosthetic pregnancy bellies for actresses and models." The door swung open, and Aunt Laurel strode in, carrying a thick folder. "Sorry I'm late. Had to dig these out of storage." She dropped the folder on the table. "Everything from Cassandra's divorce proceedings, including some very interesting medical testimonies." "Laurel," Brian stood, extending his hand. "It's been a while." 20 years, give or take a few lies," she replied dryly, shaking his hand. "Now shall we plan this baby shower?" About that, Jonathan pulled up his event planning software. "Cassandra's already sent out invitations to half the town, local press included." "Perfect," I smiled. "The bigger the audience, the better." "Felicity," Sean touched my arm. "Are you sure about this? She's still my mother." "Which is exactly why we need to do this," I said gently. "She needs help, Sean. Real help. Not enablers." "I agree," Brian added. "I enabled her behavior for years, and look where it got us." Paige's phone buzzed. "Guys, you need to see this. Bob just posted something interesting." We huddled around her phone. There was Bob, clearly on a beach somewhere, with his arm around a young woman. "New beginnings in Bali with my soulmate," Ruby read. "Sorry, Cassandra, but I can't be part of your games anymore. P.S. We both know you're not pregnant." "Well, that's going to complicate her story," Jonathan mused. "Save that post," I instructed. "We'll need it for the shower." Speaking of the shower, Laurel opened her folder. "I have some ideas for the guest list, starting with every person she's ever manipulated." "That could be a long list," Brian warned. "Exactly," Laurel smiled wickedly. "And I've kept in touch with most of them." Sean's phone lit up with a text. "Mom wants to meet for dinner tonight, says she needs to discuss the shower details." "Perfect," I said. Tell her yes, but we'll make it a group dinner. And I'll make sure to book a table near the windows, Jonathan added. Better lighting for when everything comes to light. You're all enjoying this a bit too much, Sean observed. But I could see the ghost of a smile playing at his lips. Maybe, Ruby admitted. But your mother's been scripting everyone's lives for decades. Time for her to face the critics. There's one more thing, Brian said, pulling out a final document. The medical records from her first fake pregnancy, the one she used to trap me into marriage. Sean's head snapped up. What? That's right, Brian confirmed. Our entire marriage was based on a lie. One that took me years to uncover. The room fell silent as the weight of this revelation sank in. The shower's in 3 days, Jonathan reminded us. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast. I looked around the table at our unlikely alliance. My family, Sean's father, our friends, all united in exposing a lifetime of manipulation. 3 days is plenty, I said, picking up one of Cassandra's ultrasound photos, clearly photoshopped. After all, she's given us more than enough material for one hell of a baby shower presentation. To the mother of all revelations, Ruby raised her coffee cup in a mock toast. As everyone laughed, I caught Sean's eye. He nodded slightly, finally fully on board. Cassandra had no idea what was coming, but she was about to learn that karma, like her fake pregnancy, had perfect timing. The restaurant's private dining room crackled with tension as Cassandra swept in, 45 minutes late, sporting an even larger baby bump than she'd had 2 days ago. Traffic was absolutely dreadful, she announced, then froze at the sight of our full table. I wasn't expecting a crowd. Sit down, Mom, Sean said firmly. We need to talk. About the shower, she perched delicately on the only available chair, directly across from Brian. I've already handled everything. The caterer, the decorations, the press. The press, I interrupted. For a baby shower. Well, naturally. It's not every day a mother and daughter-in-law experience pregnancy together. She beamed at me. Speaking of which, darling, you're barely showing. Are you eating enough? Cut the act, Cassandra. Brian's voice was quiet but firm. We know about Dr. Harrison. Her smile flickered. My obstetrician? What about him? Funny, Ruby chimed in, sliding her phone across the table. Because according to his website, Dr. Harrison specializes in cosmetic surgery and prosthetic pregnancy suits for the entertainment industry. I don't know what you're implying. Bob called me, Sean cut in, right before he posted about his new life in Bali. Cassandra's hand flew to her throat. He what? Told us everything, I added. About how you planned this whole thing when you found out he was leaving you for someone else. That's ridiculous. She grabbed her water glass with trembling hands. I'm carrying twins. Like you were carrying my sibling during the divorce? Sean asked. Or should I say, pretending to carry? The color drained from Cassandra's face. Who told you about that? I did, Brian said, opening his folder, along with evidence of every other lie you've told over the years. Those records are private. She tried to snatch the folder, but Brian pulled it back. Not anymore. Not since you decided to tag me in your latest performance. Jonathan cleared his throat. The guest list for the shower has grown quite interesting. We've heard back from almost everyone, including your sister-in-law, whose charity event you ruined in 2008, and your former best friend, whose wedding you interrupted with your terminal illness diagnosis. Paige added. That was different. Cassandra's voice rose. I was going through a difficult time. You're always going through a difficult time, Sean said wearily. Always at exactly the moment when someone else is happy. How dare you? She stood up, her prosthetic bump shifting noticeably. I'm your mother. Yes, you are, Sean replied, which is why we're giving you a choice. I pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. Inside is the name and number of Dr. Peters. She's an excellent therapist who specializes in personality disorders. You think I need therapy? Cassandra laughed shrilly. Option 2, Brian continued, is we go ahead with the shower as planned. with a few minor adjustments to the program. What adjustments? Her eyes narrowed. A comprehensive presentation, Ruby explained cheerfully, featuring 20 years of your greatest hits, photos, documents, medical records, even that video of you practicing your feint at the charity gala. You wouldn't dare. Try us, I challenged. You've spent years manipulating everyone around you. It stops now. Cassandra's eyes darted around the table, looking for an ally and finding none. Her hand unconsciously went to her fake bump, which had shifted noticeably to the left. Sean, she pleaded, you can't let them do this to your own mother. I'm doing this because you're my mother, he replied. Get help, Mom. Real help. The waiter chose that moment to appear with menus. Cassandra grabbed her purse, standing so abruptly, her chair toppled backward. This isn't over, she hissed. Actually, Aunt Laurel spoke for the first time. It is. The shower's in 2 days. You have until tomorrow at noon to call Dr. Peters, or we proceed as planned. With press coverage, Jonathan added helpfully, as requested. We watched as Cassandra stormed out, her exit somewhat undermined by her crooked prosthetic bump. Well, Paige broke the silence. That went about as well as expected. You think she'll call the therapist? Ruby asked. No, Sean and Brian answered simultaneously. Then we proceed with Plan B. I picked up my menu. But first, I'm starving. Anyone else want to split the calamari? As we ordered dinner, I noticed Sean looking at his phone. Everything okay? He showed me the screen. A text from Cassandra. You'll regret this, all of you. Sounds like a threat. Ruby peered over my shoulder. Sounds like someone who's cornered, Brian corrected. And that's when Cassandra is most dangerous. Let her try something, I said, squeezing Sean's hand. We have truth on our side. Plus video evidence, Jonathan added, waving his tablet. Lots and lots of video evidence. As our appetizers arrived, I couldn't shake the feeling that Cassandra wasn't done yet. But this time, we were ready for whatever performance she had planned. The country club ballroom buzzed with anticipation. Cassandra had outdone herself with the decorations. Twin-themed everything, from the matching blue and pink balloon arches to the 2 times the blessing banner stretched across the stage. She didn't call Dr. Peters, Sean confirmed, checking his phone one last time. Of course she didn't. Ruby adjusted the projector screen. That would require admitting she needs help. Guests began filtering in, many of them familiar faces from Cassandra's past. Her former best friend Margaret, who'd lost her husband to cancer, while Cassandra faked her own terminal diagnosis. Sarah, the sister-in-law, whose charity event she'd hijacked. Even Bob's ex-wife, looking particularly pleased to be there. The press is here, Jonathan whispered, nodding toward a cluster of local reporters. And you won't believe who Cassandra invited as her personal photographer. Who? My cousin Tony, the same one who caught her practicing fake fainting spells on video. I couldn't help but smile. Perfect. The room fell silent as Cassandra made her grand entrance. She'd somehow acquired an even larger prosthetic bump, wrapped in a designer maternity dress that probably cost more than my car. Welcome, everyone, she beamed, one hand placed dramatically on her stomach. I'm so blessed to share this magical day with. Sorry I'm late, Aunt Laurel's voice cut through the room. She strode in, followed by a distinguished-looking woman in a lab coat. Dr. Harrison was kind enough to join us. Cassandra's face went pale. Dr. Harrison. Yes, though I'm a bit confused, the doctor said loudly. You've been telling people I'm your obstetrician, but I'm actually a cosmetic surgeon, one who specializes in prosthetic pregnancy, suits for film and television. The room erupted in whispers. Cassandra's hand clutched her fake bump. I don't know what you're talking about. My real doctor is non-existent. Brian stepped forward. Just like your pregnancy. How dare you? Cassandra's voice rose. I'm carrying twins. No, you're carrying silicone, Dr. Harrison corrected. In fact, that's my company's latest model, though you seem to have adjusted it incorrectly. It's sliding to the left. Camera flashes went off as Cassandra frantically tried to adjust her slipping prosthetic. Jonathan, I nodded. Start the presentation. The lights dimmed, and the projector flickered to life. On screen appeared the title, A History of Deception, The Cassandra Chronicles. Stop this immediately, Cassandra shrieked, but her voice was drowned out by gasps as the first video played. Her practicing fainting spells before the charity gala. And here, Ruby narrated, we have medical records from 1998 showing no pregnancy during her divorce proceedings, despite her claims. That's private medical information. Cassandra lunged for the podium, but Sean blocked her path. Like the private medical information you've been spreading about your fake pregnancy, he asked quietly. The presentation continued, each slide revealing another layer of manipulation. Photos of her miraculous recovery from her fake terminal illness, documents proving she'd lied about various medical conditions to manipulate events, Bob's social media post from Bali declaring her current pregnancy a fraud. You're all just jealous. Cassandra's voice cracked. Jealous of my happiness, my miracle pregnancy. Her dramatic gesture caused the prosthetic bump to shift completely sideways. In her panic to adjust it, the entire thing slipped out from under her dress, falling to the floor with a soft thud. The room went silent. Then Margaret started laughing. Soon others joined in, years of pent-up frustration, releasing in waves of cathartic laughter. This is assault, Cassandra screamed, backing toward the door. I'll sue all of you. For what? Aunt Laurel stepped forward, exposing the truth. Please, do sue us. I'd love to present all this evidence in court. Sean, Cassandra pleaded, tell them to stop. I'm your mother. Yes, you are. Sean's voice was gentle but firm. Which is why we did this. You need help, Mom. Real help. I don't need anything except loyal family. She pointed at me. This is all your fault. You turned my son against me. No, Mom. Sean took my hand. Your lies turned everyone against you. Dr. Peters emerged from the crowd. My offer still stands, Cassandra. We can start sessions whenever you're ready. Cassandra looked around the room, at the reporters taking notes, at her former victims finally seeing justice, at her own prosthetic belly lying sadly on the floor. This isn't over, she whispered, but her voice lacked its usual conviction. Actually, I picked up the fake bump and held it out to her. It is. The question is, do you want to end it with dignity and get help? Or should we continue sharing your greatest hits? For a moment, I thought I saw something real in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or recognition. But then she turned and fled, leaving her fake pregnancy behind, along with the last shreds of her credibility. Well, Ruby broke the silence. I guess this means we can serve the cake now. The tension broke as people laughed, the party transforming from a fake baby shower into something like a celebration of truth. Think she'll actually get help this time? Sean asked quietly. I don't know, I admitted, but at least she can't hurt anyone else with her lies anymore. The sunset painted the beach in soft oranges and pinks as Sean and I finally had the wedding reception we deserved. No drama, no fake pregnancies, just us and our real family celebrating under the stars. I still can't believe you pulled this off, Sean said, pulling me closer as we swayed to the music. A complete do-over, thank Jonathan. I nodded toward our wedding planner, who was busy arranging floating lanterns along the shoreline. He insisted we deserved a drama-free celebration. Ruby appeared with 2 champagne glasses. Speaking of drama, guess who just checked into Silver Pines Rehabilitation Center? Mom actually did it? Sean stopped dancing. According to Brian, she had a breakdown after the shower, finally admitted she needs help. Ruby handed us the glasses. Dr. Peters is handling her treatment personally. Paige joined us, kicking off her sandals. Don't forget the best part. She's agreed to make public apologies to everyone she manipulated. Starting with you two, Brian added, approaching with Aunt Laurel, though she'll have to wait until she's completed her first month of therapy. To new beginnings. Aunt Laurel raised her glass. And to karma finally catching up. And to no more fake pregnancies, Ruby added with a wink. The fairy lights strung across the beach pavilion twinkled as night fell. Our guests gathered around tables laden with food, sharing stories and laughter, real laughter, not the nervous kind that had filled our first reception. "May I have everyone's attention?" Jonathan tapped his glass. "It's time for the father of the groom's speech." Brian stood, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. When Sean first told me he was getting married, I worried. Not about Felicity, she's perfect for him. I worried that history would repeat itself, that manipulation and lies would poison another generation. He paused, looking at Sean. But then I watched my son do something I never had the courage to do: stand up to the manipulation. And I watched my daughter-in-law do something even braver. She fought back with truth. "Here's to fighting back," Margaret called from her table, raising her glass. "To truth," several voices echoed. "But most importantly," Brian continued, "here's to breaking cycles, to recognizing toxic patterns, and having the courage to end them." Sean, Felicity, you've shown us all what real love looks like. It looks like honesty, even when it's hard. It looks like standing together, even when it means standing up to family. I squeezed Sean's hand as Brian finished. "To the happy couple, may your life together be filled with real joy, real love, and absolutely no fake medical conditions." The crowd laughed and cheered. As the music resumed, Sean pulled me aside, near the water's edge. "I got something in the mail today," he said, pulling out an envelope. "From Mom. Do you want to read it?" He nodded, unfolding the letter. "Dear Sean and Felicity, I'm learning that sorry isn't enough. Actions matter more than words. I'm doing the work now, really doing it. Dr. Peters is helping me understand why I needed attention so desperately that I hurt the people I love. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope someday to earn back your trust. With real love, Mom." "That actually sounds genuine," I said, surprised. Dr. Peters added a note confirming Mom wrote this herself. No manipulation tactics. Sean folded the letter carefully. "It's a start." Ruby's voice carried across the beach. "Time for the lantern release." We joined our guests by the water's edge, each holding a paper lantern. Jonathan had arranged them in a heart shape, a much better surprise than any fake pregnancy announcement. "Make a wish," Sean whispered as we lit our lantern together. "I wish." "Don't say it out loud," Ruby interrupted. "Bad luck." As our lantern joined the others floating up into the night sky, I looked around at our real family. Ruby and Paige arguing about proper wish-making protocol. Brian and Aunt Laurel sharing knowing smiles. Jonathan directing the photographer to capture the perfect shot. "You know what?" Sean said softly. "I think we're going to be okay." "Better than okay," I corrected. "We're going to be real. No more fake anything." Although, he grinned, "you did make a pretty convincing pregnant woman." "Don't even joke about that," Ruby called out, "or I'm telling everyone about the time you fainted at the wedding." As laughter erupted around us, I watched the lanterns drift higher, their light merging with the stars. Sometimes the best endings aren't about perfect closure. They're about honest new beginnings. "Ready to start our real life together?" Sean asked. I kissed him under the starlit sky, surrounded by truth and genuine love. "I thought you'd never ask."
The day I found my mother's journal was the day everything started to unravel. It was buried in a box of wedding magazines that Uncle Spencer had helpfully delivered to my apartment, probably hoping I'd follow his perfectly planned vision for my big day. I'm Michaela, and until 3 months ago, I thought I was living a fairly normal life. I had a wonderful fiancé, Brandon, a job I loved at the local art gallery, and what I believed was a supportive family. But that journal changed everything. "Sweetie, have you looked through those magazines I sent over?" Uncle Spencer's voice crackled through my phone speaker. "I've marked some excellent venues that would be perfect for the ceremony." "I was actually thinking about the botanical gardens," I said, flipping through one of the magazines. "Mum always loved the botanical gardens," He cut me off with a laugh that made my skin crawl. Oh no, dear. That's far too small for the guest list I've put together. Besides, outdoor venues are terribly unpredictable. I gripped the phone tighter. But it's my wedding, Uncle Spencer. I thought, Michaela, your mother isn't here to guide you anymore. Trust me, I know what's best. I've already scheduled appointments at the Grand Plaza Hotel and the Metropolitan. We'll tour them tomorrow. The leather-bound journal had fallen from between the magazines when I'd first opened the box. Now, as I hung up the phone, I picked it up again, running my fingers over my mother's familiar handwriting on the first page. My best friend Chloe walked in just as I was about to open it. Hey, bride-to-be, ready for lunch? She stopped short when she saw my face. What's wrong? I held up the journal. It's Mom's. I haven't seen it since before she died. Chloe sat beside me on the couch. Are you going to read it? I don't know if I should. I turned it over in my hands. It feels private. She was your mother, Michaela. If she didn't want you to find it eventually, she wouldn't have kept it. I opened to a random page and a small note fell out. The paper was yellowed, the corners worn, but my mother's handwriting was clear. My dearest Michaela, if you're reading this, watch the shadows. Not everyone who claims to protect you has your best interests at heart. What does that mean? Chloe leaned in to read it. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Uncle Spencer. I've taken the liberty of booking the Metropolitan for your date. The deposit has been paid. We can discuss the details over dinner tonight. He's doing it again, I said, showing Chloe the message. Ever since Mom died, he's been trying to control everything in my life. The wedding is just his latest project. Maybe you should talk to Brandon about this, Chloe suggested. He should know how you're feeling. Brandon thinks Uncle Spencer is being generous. Everyone does. He's the successful businessman who stepped in to help his poor niece after her mother's death. I picked up the journal again. But Mom's note. It's like she knew something like this would happen. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Aunt Louisa, Spencer's wife. Your uncle mentioned you were considering the botanical gardens. Please don't upset him, dear. He's put so much thought into making this perfect for you. I threw the phone onto the couch. Perfect for me or perfect for him? Read the journal, Chloe said firmly. Your mom was trying to tell you something. And honestly, your uncle's behavior is getting creepy. I opened to the first page and began to read aloud. My darling daughter, there are things you need to know about our family. Things I've protected you from for too long. Spencer isn't the man he pretends to be. The day he came to live with us after your father left, I knew I had to start documenting everything. Chloe grabbed my arm. Michaela, look at the date. The entry was dated exactly 1 week before my mother's unexpected death. My phone buzzed one more time. Uncle Spencer again. I've invited the wedding planner to dinner tonight. 7 p.m. sharp at my house. Don't be late. We have so much to discuss. I closed the journal, my hands shaking. I always thought Mom's death was sudden. She was healthy, young. What are you saying? I don't know. I clutched the journal to my chest, but I'm starting to think finding this wasn't an accident, and maybe Mom's death wasn't either. The shadows my mother warned about were starting to take shape, and they all pointed to Uncle Spencer. I spent the entire afternoon before dinner poring over my mother's journal with Chloe. Each page revealed more disturbing details about Uncle Spencer's behavior in the months leading up to Mom's death. Listen to this entry, I said, my finger tracing the lines. Spencer cornered me in the kitchen today, demanding to see the trust fund paperwork. When I refused, he smiled that cold smile of his and said, Your daughter's future is at stake here, Sylvia. Don't be difficult. Chloe leaned forward. Trust fund. You never mentioned a trust fund. Because I didn't know about it. I flipped through more pages. According to Mom's notes, my father set it up before he left. It was supposed to be accessible when I turned 25. But you're 27 now. Exactly. I closed the journal and checked my watch. I need to get ready for this dinner. Will you keep looking through it while I'm gone? Of course. Chloe grabbed my arm. But maybe you shouldn't go alone. If I don't show up, he'll know something's wrong. I grabbed my purse. Just keep your phone close. Uncle Spencer's house was exactly what you'd expect from a successful businessman. Modern, pristine, and cold. Aunt Louisa opened the door, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Michaela, darling." She hugged me stiffly. "Spencer's in his study with Ms. Roberts, the wedding planner." I followed her through the house, noticing how she kept wringing her hands. Before we reached the study, she suddenly turned to me. "Michaela, about the botanical gardens." She glanced nervously at the study door. "Your mother and I used to have lunch there every Sunday. She always said it would be perfect for—" "Ah, there's my beautiful niece." Uncle Spencer's voice boomed as the study door swung open. Come in, come in. We have so much to discuss." Ms. Roberts sat primly on the edge of her chair, tablet in hand. "Miss Schmidt, your uncle has been sharing some wonderful ideas." "Has he?" I forced a smile, watching Uncle Spencer pour himself a drink. "Actually, I've been doing some thinking about the trust fund." The crystal tumbler in his hand paused halfway to his lips. Trust fund. The one my father set up. I met his gaze steadily. "I turned 25 2 years ago." Aunt Louisa made a small choking sound and hurried from the room. "My dear," Uncle Spencer's voice was honey smooth. "Where did you get such an idea? Your father left us with nothing but debts. Why do you think your mother had to work so hard?" My phone buzzed in my pocket. Chloe's text read, "Found letters from your dad to your mom. Dated after he supposedly left. Spencer intercepted them." "That's not true," I said, standing up. "Mom's journal." The change in his expression was instant, like a mask slipping. "What journal?" "The one that fell out of your wedding magazine box." I took a step toward the door. "The one where she documented everything." Ms. Roberts cleared her throat uncomfortably. "Perhaps we should reschedule—" "No!" Uncle Spencer's shout made us both jump. He quickly composed himself. "No, please stay. Michaela is obviously upset. Wedding jitters, you understand. Now, about the Metropolitan's ballroom—" My phone buzzed again. "Chloe, get out now. Called Brandon. He's on his way." "I'm leaving," I announced, heading for the door. "And I'm having the botanical gardens." Uncle Spencer grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in. "You ungrateful little—" He caught himself, aware of Ms. Roberts watching. "Michaela, you're confused. Your mother's death was hard on all of us. Let me help you, like I always have." "Let go of me." I yanked my arm free. "Mom tried to warn me about you. What did you do to her?" His face went completely blank. "I'd be careful with accusations like that, dear niece. You wouldn't want to end up like your mother, would you? So much stress, so many accidents waiting to happen." A car horn blared outside. Brandon. "This isn't over," Uncle Spencer called as I rushed out. "You're making a terrible mistake." I ran to Brandon's car, my heart pounding. As we drove away, I saw Aunt Louisa watching from an upstairs window, her hand pressed against the glass. "What happened?" Brandon asked, concerned. "Chloe said you were in trouble." I clutched my phone where another text from Chloe waited. "Found something else. A letter from your mom to someone named Rebecca. Says she has proof of everything Spencer did." "I need to find someone," I told Brandon. "Someone named Rebecca. She might be the key to understanding what really happened to my mother." Behind us, Uncle Spencer's house disappeared into the darkness, but I could still feel the weight of his threats hanging in the air. The next morning, I cornered Aunt Louisa at her favourite cafe. She was already on her second cappuccino when I slid into the seat across from her. "I need answers," I said, placing Mom's journal on the table, "and I know you have them." Her hands trembled as she set down her cup. "Michaela, please. Your uncle is not here." I leaned forward. "You knew my mother better than anyone. You had lunch with her every Sunday at the Botanical Gardens. What aren't you telling me?" She glanced around nervously before reaching into her purse. "I shouldn't have kept this." She pulled out a worn photograph. "It was taken the week before your mother died." The photo showed Mom and Aunt Louisa at their usual lunch spot. Mom was holding up a manila envelope, smiling triumphantly. She looked healthy, vibrant, nothing like someone about to die from natural causes. What was in the envelope? Bank statements, legal documents. Aunt Louisa's voice dropped to a whisper. Proof that Spencer had been embezzling from your trust fund for years. He used his position as executor to... She stopped abruptly, colour draining from her face. I turned to see what had frightened her. Through the cafe window, I spotted Uncle Spencer across the street watching us. He follows you? I asked, disgusted. Always. Tears welled in her eyes. Your mother tried to help me leave him, you know. She found me a lawyer, an apartment. When? The week she died. Louisa's hands shook so badly she knocked over her cup. Coffee spilled across the table, seeping into the edges of the photograph. Oh God, I've said too much. I grabbed napkins to mop up the spill. As I did, something fell from between the pages of Mum's journal. Another photograph, this one yellowed with age. I picked it up, and my heart stopped. It showed Uncle Spencer with my father, but not from years ago as I'd expected. The date stamp showed it was taken just last year at some corporate event. They were smiling, shaking hands like old friends. He told me Dad abandoned us, I said, showing Louisa the photo. That was a lie too, wasn't it? She nodded miserably. Spencer threatened to ruin your father's business if he didn't stay away. Said he'd make sure you grew up believing your father never loved you. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your mother trusted me. Meet me at the Botanical Gardens tomorrow at noon. Come alone. Rebecca. Do you know Rebecca? I asked Louisa. The colour drained further from her face. Spencer's ex-wife, the one he never talks about. She tried to warn your mother about him, but... The cafe door chimed. Uncle Spencer walked in, his business smile firmly in place. What a lovely surprise, he said, placing a heavy hand on Louisa's shoulder. Having a little chat with our dear Michaela. We were just discussing wedding flowers, Louisa lied, her voice trembling. Of course you were. His grip tightened visibly on her shoulder. Darling, the car's waiting. And Michaela. His eyes fell to the photographs on the table. Be careful with old memories. They can be misleading. As they left, Louisa glanced back at me, her eyes full of fear and something else, determination. She mouthed 2 words, trust Rebecca. I waited until they were gone before calling Chloe. You won't believe what just happened, I started. Wait, she cut me off. You need to get home now. Someone broke into your apartment. I rushed home to find my place ransacked. Every drawer emptied, every book pulled from its shelf. Brandon and Chloe were already there, helping the police document the damage. They were looking for something specific, the officer said. Any idea what? I clutched Mom's journal tighter in my purse, grateful I'd had it with me. No idea. After the police left, Brandon pulled me aside. What's really going on, Michaela? First the weird dinner, now this. I showed him the photographs, explained about Louisa's confession. His face darkened with each detail. We need to cancel the wedding, he said finally. No. I thought about Mom's triumphant smile in the photograph, about Louisa's trapped existence. We need to finish what my mother started. I'm meeting Rebecca tomorrow. Then I'm coming with you. She said to come alone. I touched his cheek. Trust me, okay? I need to do this. As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. Uncle Spencer. Think carefully about your next move, dear niece. Some secrets are better left buried. Like your mother. I showed the message to Brandon and Chloe. Their faces reflected what I was feeling. Fear mixed with determination. He's threatening you now. Chloe grabbed her phone. I'm documenting everything. Tomorrow, I said, staring at the text. Tomorrow I find out what really happened to my mother. The botanical gardens were quiet at noon, except for the gentle splash of the koi pond. I sat on Mom's favourite bench, clutching her journal, when a tall woman with silver-streaked hair approached. You look just like her, she said, sitting beside me. I'm Rebecca. How did you know my mother? Rebecca pulled out a thick manila envelope. I was more than Spencer's ex-wife. I was the accountant who discovered his first embezzlement scheme. Your mother found me 10 years later, asking questions about Spencer's business practices. And you helped her? I tried. She opened the envelope. These are copies of everything your mother collected. Bank statements, forged signatures, recordings. Spencer didn't just steal your trust fund, he's been systematically destroying lives for decades. A man walking nearby caught my attention. He looked familiar, but before I could place him, he disappeared behind a hedge. Your mother was building a case against him, Rebecca continued. She had everything ready to take to the authorities. Then she had her accident. You think he killed her? I think. Rebecca stopped abruptly as my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Walk away now. Don't trust her. Dad. My hands shook. My father's here. He's been watching over you, Rebecca said softly. Spencer threatened to harm you if your father interfered. But now... She handed me another envelope. These are letters your father wrote to you. Spencer intercepted them all. I opened one at random, dated just 6 months ago. My dearest daughter, watching you from afar breaks my heart, but as long as Spencer has his hooks in the company, as long as he can hurt you, I have to stay away. I'm working on a solution. Stay strong. Love, Dad. Spencer's been blackmailing my father. Among others, Rebecca pulled out more documents. Your mother discovered Spencer had been using the company to launder money. When she confronted him, he killed her. The words felt like glass in my throat. She left this with me the day before she died. Rebecca handed me a USB drive. It's her video testimony, along with all the evidence. I've been waiting for the right time. A twig snapped behind us. We both turned to see Uncle Spencer emerging from behind a tree, his business smile firmly in place. Rebecca, he said smoothly, still causing trouble, I see. It's over, Spencer. Rebecca stood, positioning herself between us. Michaela knows everything. Does she? He looked at me with cold eyes. Does she know you were in love with her father, that you've spent years trying to destroy me out of jealousy? That's not true, Rebecca said firmly. Show her the video, Michaela. I reached for my phone, but Spencer was faster. Show her your phone records instead, all those calls to her father over the years, the hotel receipts. Don't listen to him, Rebecca pleaded. Your mother trusted me. My mother is dead. I stood up, clutching both envelopes and the USB drive. And one of you is lying. A figure stepped out from behind the hedge. My father, older than in the photo, but unmistakable. Spencer's smile faltered. Hello, brother, my father said quietly, still manipulating everyone. Dad, my voice cracked. He moved to stand beside me, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. I'm here now, sweetheart, and I can prove everything. Spencer's mask finally cracked. You'll regret this, he snarled, backing away. All of you. We have copies of everything, Rebecca called after him. It's over. As Spencer disappeared down the path, my father turned to me. I'm so sorry, Michaela. I thought I was protecting you. We all did, Rebecca added. But your mother knew the truth had to come out eventually. That's why she left the journal where Spencer would accidentally expose it. My phone buzzed again. Chloe. Police just called. They found evidence of tampering with your mum's car brakes. They're looking for Spencer. I looked at my father, then at Rebecca. What do we do now? Now, Rebecca said. We finish what your mother started. The wedding is in 3 days. It's time Spencer faces everyone he's hurt. I'll help, my father said. No more hiding. I thought of Aunt Louisa trapped in her gilded cage, of my mother's final act of protection, of all the lives Spencer had destroyed. The wedding stays on schedule, I decided, but we're doing it my way. And when Spencer shows up to control everything, we'll be ready, Rebecca finished. My phone buzzed one last time. Uncle Spencer, you've made your choice. Remember what happened to the last person who crossed me? I showed the message to my father and Rebecca. Their expressions hardened. He's threatening you now? My father pulled out his phone. That's the final evidence we needed. The koi pond bubbled peacefully behind us, but the calm before the storm was over. In 3 days, everything would change. 2 days before the wedding, I sat at my kitchen table with Brandon, Chloe, my father, and Rebecca, finalizing our plan. Mom's journal lay open beside a stack of evidence we'd compiled. Are you sure about this? Brandon asked, squeezing my hand. We could just elope. No. I spread out the seating chart we'd stolen from Uncle Spencer's wedding planner. He needs to face everyone he's hurt. All at once. Chloe held up a USB drive. I've edited your mum's video testimony. It's ready to play on the reception hall's screens. Spencer will try to stop it, Rebecca warned. He always has a backup plan. My father nodded grimly. That's why we have one too. He pulled out his phone, showing us an email. The company board meets tomorrow. They're already suspicious about the financial discrepancies I've been anonymously reporting. A knock at the door made us all freeze. Through the peephole, I saw Aunt Louisa, looking nervously over her shoulder. He's planning something, she blurted as soon as I let her in. He's been making calls all day, talking about containing the situation. She wrung her hands. He knows you're all meeting here. As if on cue, my phone rang. Uncle Spencer. Speaker, Rebecca mouthed. I answered. Hello? Darling niece. His voice oozed false warmth. I've been thinking about our little scene at the gardens. Perhaps we could discuss things privately? Over dinner? Actually, I'm busy with wedding details. Yes, about that. His tone hardened. I've taken the liberty of calling your vendors. Apparently there were some issues with the payments. Such a shame if everything had to be cancelled last minute. Brandon stood up, fists clenched. I grabbed his arm. What do you want? I asked Spencer. Simple. Call off whatever little scheme you're plotting. Admit you were confused about your mother's accusations. Let me handle the wedding as planned. He paused. Or watch everything fall apart. Your choice. Like you gave my mother a choice? The line went silent for a moment. Careful, Michaela. Accidents can run in families. My father grabbed the phone. Threaten my daughter again, Spencer, and... big brother finally showing your face, tell me. How's the guilty conscience, abandoning your family, letting your wife die alone? I ended the call, hands shaking. He's scared, Rebecca said. He's making mistakes. Louisa pulled something from her purse, a small recorder. I've been saving this. It's from the night Sylvia died. He came home drunk, talking about what he'd done. Her voice broke. I was too afraid to come forward before. Chloe took the recorder. This is the final piece we needed. My phone buzzed with a text from the wedding planner. Mr. Schmidt asked me to change the reception venue. Please confirm this is okay. He's trying to derail everything, Brandon said. No, I started typing a response. Let him think he's winning. When he shows up to the botanical gardens, he'll find exactly what he deserves, my father finished. Another knock at the door. This time it was a courier with an envelope marked urgent. Inside was a single photograph. My mother's car after the accident, along with a note. Brake lines are so fragile. Would be terrible if history repeated itself. That's it. Brandon grabbed his keys. We're going to the police now. Wait. I picked up Mum's journal. She wrote something about this, about why she didn't go to the police. I found the page. Spencer owns half the force through blackmail. The only way to stop him is to expose everything at once publicly where he can't hide. The wedding, Chloe said, with all his business associates, friends, everyone he's ever manipulated in one room. He'll have nowhere to run, Rebecca finished. My father pulled out his phone again. I'll have security ready. Real security, not his people. Louisa stood straighter than I'd ever seen her. I'll testify. About everything. First, I said, we need to secure the real venue. Everyone thinks we're having it at the Metropolitan, but the Botanical Gardens staff are ready for us. What if he figures it out? Brandon asked. I thought about Mom's smile in that last photograph, holding the evidence she'd died protecting. Then we'll be ready for that too. My phone buzzed one last time. Uncle Spencer. Final chance, dear niece. Tomorrow night, dinner at my house. Come alone, or the wedding won't be the only thing that gets cancelled. I showed everyone the message. He's giving us the perfect opportunity, Rebecca said quietly. Yes, I agreed, thinking of the recorder in my purse. One last dinner with Uncle Spencer. The night before my wedding, I sat across from Uncle Spencer at his dining table wearing a wire beneath my blouse. Brandon and my father were parked around the corner listening to every word. "I'm so glad you came to your senses," Spencer said, pouring wine. "Family should stick together, shouldn't they? Like you stuck by my father." I took a sip, remembering Rebecca's warning to keep him talking. "Your father abandoned his responsibilities?" He smiled thinly. "Someone had to step up, protect you and your mother. Is that what you call what happened to Mom?" His hand tightened on his glass. "Accidents happen, dear, especially to people who don't know when to let things go." Like her brake lines being cut? The silence stretched between us. Aunt Louisa's hands shook as she served the main course. "Such an imagination you have." Spencer's voice turned cold. "Like this ridiculous idea about a trust fund, all these accusations about business dealings you couldn't possibly understand." I pulled out Mum's journal. She understood. "That's why you killed her, isn't it?" "Put that away." His mask slipped for a moment. "You know, your mother had quite the drinking problem toward the end. Did she ever tell you that? Such a shame, really. Made her quite accident-prone." My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "Got it all. Keep going." "Tell me about Rebecca," I said, watching his face. "And the money laundering." He slammed his hand on the table. Louisa jumped, nearly dropping a plate. "Enough!" He stood, looming over me. "You want to know the truth? Your precious mother was going to ruin everything. Years of careful planning, building this family's legacy. She had to be stopped." "Spencer, please," Louisa whispered. "Shut up!" He rounded on her. "You're just as bad sneaking around with that recorder. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" My blood ran cold. He knew about the recorder. "The wedding's off," he continued, turning back to me. "In fact, you're going to check yourself into a private facility. Grief can do strange things to a young mind, make them imagine all sorts of things about trusted family members." "You can't force me, can't I?" He pulled out his phone. "One call to the right doctor, with testimony from your concerned aunt about your recent erratic behavior." "I won't lie for you anymore," Louisa said suddenly, standing up. "Sylvia was my friend." Spencer moved so fast I barely saw it. His hand connected with Louisa's face, sending her stumbling backward. "That's assault," my father's voice came from the doorway. He and Brandon stood there, phones recording everything. "Add it to the list." Spencer lunged for the journal, but I was faster. I backed away, bumping into the china cabinet. A photograph fell, glass shattering across the floor. "It's over," I said, holding up my phone. "Everything you just said has been recorded. The police are already on their way." "The police?" He laughed. "My police?" "No." Rebecca stepped in from the kitchen. "The federal agents who've been building a case against you for months. Your trusted officers have been feeding them information since Sylvia died." Red and blue lights flashed outside the windows. "You've lost, Spencer," my father said. "The board meeting tomorrow? Already happened. Your assets are frozen." Spencer's face contorted with rage. He grabbed a knife from the table and lunged at me. Brandon tackled him before he could reach me. They crashed into the china cabinet, sending glass everywhere. I heard sirens, shouts, the splintering of wood as federal agents broke down the front door. "You're just like your mother," Spencer spat as they handcuffed him. "She didn't know when to stop either." "No." I picked up Mom's journal from where it had fallen. "She knew exactly when to start." After the agents took Spencer away, Louisa sat trembling on the couch while a paramedic checked her face. "The wedding," she said suddenly. "He already called everyone, changed the venue." "Let him think he won that one," I smiled. "The botanical gardens are ready for us. The real invitations went out days ago." My phone buzzed with a text from Chloe. "Videos ready, reception screens tested, everything's set for tomorrow." Brandon wrapped his arm around me. "You okay?" I looked around at our unlikely team, my father, Rebecca, Louisa, all the people Spencer had tried to break. "I am now." "Your mother would be proud," Rebecca said softly. Tomorrow I'd walk down the aisle at the place my mother loved, surrounded by the truth she died protecting. But tonight, watching the police car take Spencer away, I finally felt free. "Let's go home," I said. "We have a wedding to prepare for." The botanical gardens bloomed with late summer flowers as guests filled the rows of white chairs. Through the gossamer curtain of my bridal tent, I watched Spencer's business associates arrive, checking their phones in confusion at the venue change. Ready? Chloe adjusted my veil. The police are in position just in case. Did everyone get the USB drives? Hidden under their seats right now. They'll play on their phones the moment Rebecca sends the signal. My father poked his head in. It's time, sweetheart. He paused, taking in my dress. You look just like your mother on her wedding day. As we took our positions, I saw Aunt Louisa slip into her seat, makeup carefully covering yesterday's bruise. Rebecca sat near the back, her finger hovering over her phone. The music started. Dad squeezed my arm as we began walking. Brandon waited at the altar, but my eyes were drawn to the commotion at the garden entrance. Uncle Spencer, out on bail, was arguing with the security guards. That's my niece's wedding, his voice carried across the garden. I'm family. The guard showed him something on his phone, probably his arrest report from last night, but Spencer pushed past him, straightening his tie as he strode down the aisle. Right on cue. Rebecca pressed her phone. Suddenly, dozens of phones lit up throughout the crowd. My mother's voice filled the garden. My name is Sylvia, and if you're watching this, I'm dead. Killed by my brother-in-law, Spencer, who I've discovered has been embezzling money and destroying lives for decades. Spencer froze mid-stride. On every phone screen, my mother's face told her story. The evidence scrolled beside her. Bank statements, forged documents, surveillance photos. Turn those off, Spencer shouted, but more phones kept lighting up. My mother's voice continued. He's threatened my daughter, blackmailed my husband, and corrupted everything he's touched. The proof is in your hands now. Business associates began standing up, their faces turning from confusion to anger as they saw their own stolen money documented in the evidence. This is slander. Spencer tried to grab a phone, but the owner pulled away. She was unstable, drinking. Like you said I was drinking last night. Aunt Louisa stood up. Before you hit me. She wiped away her makeup, revealing the bruise. Spencer lunged for the altar. I won't let you ruin everything. Brandon stepped in front of me, but he didn't need to. 2 federal agents emerged from the crowd, grabbing Spencer's arms. New evidence came in this morning, one announced. Your bail's been revoked. You can't do this, Spencer struggled. I built this family. I protected them. Protected them. My father's voice boomed across the garden. You killed my wife, threatened my daughter, destroyed lives for money. The board voted this morning. A man in an expensive suit stood up. You're out, Spencer. The company's returning everything you stole. As the agents led Spencer away, he locked eyes with me. I should have dealt with you like I dealt with your mother. The garden went silent. One of the agents pulled out a recorder. Would you like to elaborate on that confession, sir? Spencer's face crumpled as he realized what he'd done. His mask finally shattered completely. She deserved it, he screamed as they dragged him out. They all deserved it. The garden erupted in chaos. People were shouting, calling lawyers, watching my mother's video with horrified expressions. Should we? Brandon gestured at the disorder. Maybe postpone? I took his hand and turned to the minister. No, we're doing this now. Here? Brandon looked around at the commotion. Here. I squeezed his hand. In my mother's favourite place, with the truth finally out. This is exactly where we should be. The minister cleared his throat. Shall we begin? Gradually people settled back into their seats. Phones were lowered, though my mother's voice still echoed softly from a few devices. Aunt Louisa was crying but smiling. Rebecca and my father sat together, both looking relieved and exhausted. Dearly beloved, the minister began, we are gathered here today. I looked out at the garden, at the flowers my mother had loved, at the people finally free from Spencer's web of lies. In my bouquet, I'd tucked a page from her journal, her last entry, written the day she died. My dearest Michaela, never let anyone dim your light. The truth always finds its way into the sunshine. As Brandon and I exchanged vows, police sirens wailed in the distance, carrying Spencer away for the last time. But here, in the garden, surrounded by light and truth and love, justice had finally bloomed. The reception was nothing like Uncle Spencer had planned. Instead of the Metropolitan's grand ballroom, we celebrated under the stars in the botanical gardens. Paper lanterns swayed in the evening breeze as guests mingled, still processing the day's revelations. "Your mother would have loved this," Aunt Louisa said, joining me at a table near the koi pond. Her bruise was visible now, but she held herself differently, lighter, freer. "Did you see this?" She handed me a newspaper someone had brought. The headline read, "Corporate Scandal Exposed at Wedding. CEO Arrested." "The reporter wants to talk to you," my father said, sitting down with us. "They're calling you a hero." I shook my head. Mom was the hero. I just finished what she started. Rebecca approached with a stack of papers. The board signed everything over. The trust fund, the company shares. It's all being returned to their rightful owners. Including this. My father pulled out an envelope. "Your mother's life insurance policy. Spencer blocked the payout, claiming she died by suicide. The insurance company's reopening the case." Brandon clinked his glass, calling for attention. "Everyone, there's something else you should see." Chloe started a new video on the reception screens. This time it wasn't evidence or accusations. It was home movies. My mother laughing, dancing at parties, having lunch with Louisa at this very garden. "I found these while going through Spencer's things," Chloe explained. "He kept them, maybe as trophies." "No," Louisa said softly. "He kept them because some part of him knew he'd lose eventually." "Your mother made sure of that." A detective approached our table. "Sorry to interrupt, but we found something in Mr. Schmidt's safe." He handed me a letter. "It's addressed to you from your mother." My hands shook as I opened it. "My darling daughter, if you're reading this, then everything has come to light. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from Spencer's darkness, but I knew you would be strong enough to face it. The journal wasn't just evidence. It was my way of teaching you one final lesson. That love and truth are stronger than fear and lies. Remember the sunflowers we planted together? How they always turned toward the light. Be like them, Michaela. Keep turning toward the light. All my love. Mom." Brandon squeezed my hand as I folded the letter. On the dance floor, guests were watching the home movies, sharing stories about my mother, about Spencer's manipulations, about their own experiences breaking free from toxic control. "The detective has more news," my father said. "Spencer confessed to everything, said he was tired of running." "He also gave up his accomplices," Rebecca added. "Half the police force is being investigated. His network is completely exposed." Louisa stood suddenly. "I want to speak at his trial. About everything." "We all will," I said, standing with her. "No more shadows, no more secrets." The home movies showed a clip of my mother here in the garden, pointing at something off camera. I walked to where she'd been standing and found a small plaque I'd never noticed before. The inscription read, "Truth blooms in its own time." "Michaela!" Chloe called. "They're ready for the first dance." Brandon led me to the dance floor as music filled the garden. But instead of the formal waltz Spencer had insisted on, it was my mother's favourite song, the one she used to dance to in our kitchen on Sunday mornings. "Look," Brandon whispered, nodding toward the garden entrance. The evening staff were setting up a new sign. "The Sylvia Memorial Garden where truth blooms." The board approved it this morning, my father explained, along with a foundation in her name to help people escape domestic abuse and financial exploitation. As we danced, I watched the people around us. Louisa laughing with Rebecca, my father sharing stories with old friends, Chloe documenting everything for the upcoming trial. All the lives Spencer had tried to control, now blooming in their own way. The letter crinkled in my pocket, my mother's words echoing in my mind. Like the sunflowers we'd planted, we'd all turned toward the light. "Ready to go home?" Brandon asked as the song ended. I looked around the garden one last time, at the flowers, the lanterns, the koi pond where my mother had spent so many Sunday afternoons plotting our freedom. "We are home," I said. This is exactly where we're supposed to be. Above us, the stars twinkled like scattered diamonds, so much brighter than any ballroom chandelier Spencer could have chosen. In the end, my mother's garden had given us something his money never could: the space to grow toward the light, free from shadows at last.
The text message from my mother-in-law Yolanda felt like a slap across the face. We won't be attending Poppy's birthday party. I hope you understand that these celebrations are different for girls. I'm Summer, and at that moment, I wanted to throw my phone through our kitchen window. Instead, I gripped the counter until my knuckles turned white, trying to process how anyone could be so cruel to a 6-year-old child. Mommy, is Abuela coming to my party? Poppy's voice startled me. She stood in the doorway, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant, her dark curls still messy from her afternoon nap. Honey, The words caught in my throat. How do you tell your daughter that her grandmother thinks she's less worthy of celebration because she wasn't born a boy? The front door opened, and Caleb walked in, loosening his tie. One look at my face, and he knew something was wrong. What happened? I thrust my phone at him. Your mother happened. Again. His eyes scanned the message, and his face darkened. I'll call her. Don't bother, I said, watching Poppy retreat to the living room. This isn't the first time, and it won't be the last. Remember Christmas, when they gave your brother's sons those expensive gaming consoles while Poppy got a coloring book? Summer, they're old-fashioned, but old-fashioned? I laughed bitterly. They attended your nephew's birthday last month. Threw him a party that looked like a mini carnival. But our daughter? She's not worth their time? Caleb ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd seen countless times when he was stuck between his wife and his family. Let me talk to them. Maybe if I explain... Explain what? I lowered my voice, conscious of Poppy in the next room. That their granddaughter deserves love? That she notices every time they slight her? That she asked me last week why Abuela hugs her cousins more than her? The pain in Caleb's eyes matched mine, but I needed more than pain. I needed action. I'm done, I declared. I'm done watching our daughter shrink herself to fit into their narrow view of what matters. This birthday party? It's going to be something they'll regret missing. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Prince, Caleb's brother. Mom told me about the party. Try to see it from their perspective. Girls don't carry on the family name. Perspective? I shoved the phone in Caleb's face. Your brother's perspective can go straight to hell. Caleb reached for me, but I stepped back. I need you to choose, Caleb. Right now. Are you with your daughter or are you with them? That's not fair, he protested. They're my family. And what are we? Before he could answer, Poppy appeared again, this time holding her birthday invitation. Mommy, can I show you my drawing for the party? I forced a smile. Of course, baby. She climbed onto a kitchen stool, spreading out her artwork, a colorful circus tent with dancing animals. See? There's going to be a lion and elephants and... She pointed to each figure with pride. Looking at her excitement, something shifted inside me. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about showing my daughter that her worth wasn't determined by anyone else's prejudices. I picked up my phone and dialed Angela, my best friend. Hey, remember that event planning company you worked with last summer? The one that did that celebrity kids party? I need their number. Summer? Angela's voice was concerned. What are you planning? Something big. Something that will make the Salazars realize exactly what they're missing out on. I watched Poppy continue coloring, humming to herself. They want to skip her party? Fine, but I'm going to make it the kind of party people talk about for years. I'm in, Angela said without hesitation. What do you need? Caleb was watching me, his expression a mix of worry and curiosity. I met his gaze head on. I need you to decide where you stand, I told him. Because this party isn't just a birthday celebration anymore. It's a statement. He looked at Poppy, then back at me, and finally nodded. I'm with you. Both of you. Always. Good, I said, already making mental notes. Because when I'm done, Your family won't be boycotting our daughter's party. They'll be begging for an invitation. And in that moment, watching my daughter draw her dream party while my husband finally took a stand, I knew this wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice, about love, and about showing the world, especially the Salazars, that every child deserves to be celebrated regardless of their gender. This is insane, Summer, my mother Adeline said, but her eyes sparkled with excitement as she looked over the party plans spread across her dining room table. A full circus theme with professional performers? Too much? I asked, watching my father Frank write out another check. Not enough, he replied, sliding the check toward me. No one messes with my granddaughter. I stared at the amount. Dad, this is... Don't you dare say it's too much. He cut me off. I've been saving for something special, and this is it. Besides, your mother and I have some connections that might help. Angela burst through the front door, her arms full of sample fabrics and color swatches. You won't believe who just RSVP'd. Marcel Price's assistant called. You know, the media mogul? He's bringing his twins. My jaw dropped. Marcel Price owned half the children's entertainment networks in the country. How did he even hear about this? Remember my cousin who works at his company? Angela grinned. I might have mentioned that we're putting together the most magical children's party of the year. My phone buzzed. Caleb. The rental company confirmed the tent, he said. It's big enough for 200 people. 200? I squeaked. We invited 50. Trust me, Angela said, laying out photographs of aerial performers. With Marcel Price coming, you'll need the space. People are already calling, asking if they can attend. My mother grabbed her phone. I'm calling Catherine from the dance academy. Her students would be perfect for the opening number. Opening number? I felt slightly dizzy. Every great show needs an opening number, Dad said matter-of-factly. And this isn't just a party anymore, sweetheart. This is a statement. The front door opened again and Poppy ran in, fresh from her dance class. Mommy, Miss Rachel taught me a new trick for my routine. She twirled in place, her face glowing with excitement. I hadn't seen her this happy since before she started noticing her grandparents' rejection. Show us, Princess, Dad encouraged, clearing space in the living room. Poppy launched into a series of graceful movements, ending with a perfect split. We all applauded, and I noticed tears in my mother's eyes. That's it, Mom declared. We're adding a stage. Poppy needs to perform. Mom, she's 6. And talented, Angela interrupted. Summer, don't you see? This is perfect. Let her shine. Show everyone exactly what the Salazars are missing. My phone buzzed again. Prince this time. Mom's upset. She says you're turning this into a circus just to spite her. I showed the message to everyone. Dad snorted. She hasn't seen anything yet. The nerve, Mom muttered, already dialing another number. Hello, James. It's Adeline. Remember that favor you owe me? How do you feel about bringing your elephants to a birthday party? Real elephants? Poppy's eyes went wide. Really, really real ones? I watched my daughter's face light up and suddenly all my doubts vanished. Yes, baby. Real elephants. And that's just the beginning. Angela was now on her laptop, creating a social media event. We need a hashtag. Something catchy. How about Mopopley's Big Top? Dad suggested. Perfect, Angela typed furiously. And posted. Now we wait. Within minutes, her phone started pinging with notifications. Oh my God, she whispered. It's going viral. Local influencers are sharing it already. Caleb walked in, looking both excited and nervous. My brother just called. He's trying to convince Mom to reconsider attending. Too late, I said firmly. That ship has sailed. Actually, Mom interjected, let them stew. Let them watch as this becomes the event of the season. Let them realize what their prejudice cost them. Mommy, Poppy tugged at my sleeve. Can I invite Maria from dance class? And Sophie? And Lucas? Invite your whole class, sweetheart, Dad said. This is your day. As Poppy squealed with delight and ran to make a list of friends, I felt a surge of gratitude for my family. My real family. The ones who showed up, who supported us, who understood that love doesn't discriminate. The rental company needs a deposit by tomorrow, Caleb reminded me. I picked up Dad's check. Tell them it's done. And Caleb? Thank you for standing with us. He pulled me close. I should have done it sooner. You and Poppy are my world. Group hug, Angela declared, pulling everyone together. As we stood there, surrounded by party plans and love, I realized this wasn't just about teaching the Salazars a lesson anymore. This was about creating something magical, something unforgettable, for a little girl who deserved every bit of joy we could give her. And if it happened to become the most talked about children's party in recent memory, well, that would just be the cherry on top. The day before the party, our backyard had transformed into a wonderland. A massive red and white striped tent dominated the space, while workers strung twinkling lights through every tree. The smell of fresh popcorn wafted through the air as the concession stands were tested. Mrs. Price's assistant is on the phone again, Angela announced, rushing toward me with her tablet. They want to know if they can bring a camera crew. Apparently, Marcel is doing a segment on unique children's parties for his new network. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a text from Yolanda. This excessive display is unnecessary. You're only hurting Poppy by spoiling her. Delete, Angela commanded, grabbing my phone. Focus on what matters. The camera crew? I need to ask Poppy, I said, heading inside where my daughter was practicing her routine with Mom. I stopped in the doorway, watching her twirl in her sparkly costume. She caught sight of me in the mirror and beamed. Mommy, Miss Rachel says I'm ready. Baby, how would you feel about being on TV tomorrow? Her eyes grew wide. Like a real star? Only if you want to, I assured her. It's your party. She launched herself into my arms. Yes. Can I show them my special dance? The one with the ribbon? Of course you can, Princess. I hugged her tight, then turned to Mom. What do you think? I think Yolanda's going to choke on her morning coffee when she sees her granddaughter on television. Mom replied with a wicked grin. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the window, I saw James arriving with his elephants. 2 gentle giants named Rose and Daisy. Poppy squealed and ran outside, where Dad was already waiting with his camera. Look who's here early to meet the birthday girl, James called out, helping Poppy offer a carrot to Rose. The elephant delicately took the treat as Poppy giggled. Photographers who'd been setting up their equipment started snapping pictures. Summer, Angela waved frantically from the tent. Marcel Price is here, a day early. My heart jumped as I saw a sleek black car pull up. A tall man in an impeccably tailored suit stepped out, followed by 2 children around Poppy's age. I hope you don't mind us dropping by today, Marcel said, extending his hand. My twins couldn't wait until tomorrow, and I wanted to see this set up for myself. Of course not, I managed, trying to sound calm. Poppy's just meeting the elephants if your children would like to join. Daddy, look. His daughter pointed at Poppy, who was now sitting on a decorated platform on Rose's back, James holding her securely. Can we try? Marcel watched thoughtfully as Poppy waved to everyone below, her face glowing with joy. Your daughter has quite a presence, he observed. Very natural in front of the cameras. She loves performing, I said proudly. She's prepared a special dance for tomorrow. Is that so? He turned to his assistant. Make sure we get that on camera, all of it. A familiar car drove slowly past the house, Prince's SUV. He didn't stop, but I knew he'd report back to Yolanda about the media presence and the elephants. Mrs. Price was wondering. Marcel's assistant approached. If Poppy might be interested in auditioning for our new children's program? It's about a little girl who runs away to join the circus. I nearly dropped my phone. I'd have to discuss it with my husband. Of course. Marcel nodded. No rush. Let's see how tomorrow goes first. As if on cue, Caleb's car pulled into the driveway. He stepped out, looking stunned at the transformation of our property. Is that Marcel Price? He whispered as he reached me. He wants Poppy to audition for a TV show, I whispered back. Caleb's eyes widened. What about my mother? What about her? I challenged. She made her choice. Summer. He took my hands. She's been calling all day, crying. Prince showed her the social media posts. She realizes she made a mistake. A mistake? I pulled away. She's been making mistakes since Poppy was born. Tomorrow isn't about her anymore. It's about our daughter. As if to emphasize my point, Poppy's laughter rang out across the yard. She was now teaching Marcel's twins her dance moves while the camera crew captured every moment. Look at her, I said to Caleb. Really look at her. She's happy, confident, shining. No one gets to dim that light. Not even your mother. He wrapped an arm around me, watching our daughter. You're right. And Summer? Thank you for fighting for her when I wasn't strong enough to. Better late than never. I smiled, leaning into him. Now, help me figure out where we're going to put the trapeze artists. They just called. They're bringing an extra performer. As the sun set behind our circus wonderland, I couldn't help but think that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising above and creating something magical in spite of those who tried to hold you down. The morning of the party exploded with energy. Camera crews positioned themselves around the tent while acrobats warmed up on their equipment. The smell of cotton candy and fresh popcorn filled the air as vendors prepared their carts. Mommy, Poppy called from her room. My hair isn't right. I rushed upstairs to find her struggling with her costume's headpiece. The sparkly purple outfit we'd chosen made her look like a tiny circus princess. Here, baby, I said, adjusting the rhinestone tiara. Perfect. Will I remember all my steps? Her bottom lip trembled slightly. You'll be amazing, I assured her. And if you forget anything, just smile and keep going. That's what real performers do. A knock at the door revealed Angela, slightly breathless. You need to see this. She held up her phone, showing a local news station's live feed. There, parked a block away, was a line of cars, the Salazar family, watching the preparations from a distance. Let them watch, I said, turning back to Poppy. Ready to greet your guests, sweetheart? She nodded enthusiastically, previous nerves forgotten. We descended the stairs to find Marcel Price in our living room, discussing something with Caleb. There's our star. Marcel beamed at Poppy. My twins haven't stopped talking about you since yesterday. They're already outside with the elephants. The doorbell started ringing constantly as guests arrived. Children rushed past in excitement, parents gaped at the transformed backyard, and photographers captured every moment. Summer? Caleb pulled me aside. My mother just called. She's crying. Not now, I said firmly, watching Poppy greet her friends. This is Poppy's moment. The party kicked into high gear as professional performers began their acts. Trapeze artists soared overhead while jugglers weaved through the crowd. James gave elephant rides to delighted children, and face painters transformed little faces into exotic animals. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. Please welcome our special birthday performer, Miss Poppy. The crowd gathered around the central stage as the music began. Poppy emerged from behind a sparkly curtain, her ribbon dancing through the air as she started her routine. Every move was perfect, every turn precise. The audience watched, transfixed, as this 6-year-old commanded the stage with natural grace. Remarkable, Marcel murmured beside me. She has that special something, that spark that can't be taught. As Poppy finished her performance with a perfect split, the crowd erupted in applause. Camera flashes went off like fireworks, and Marcel's crew captured everything. Summer, he turned to me. I'd like to offer Poppy a screen test next week. That routine just convinced me. She's exactly what we're looking for. Before I could respond, Angela rushed over. You need to see this. She led me to the entrance where Yolanda stood, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, Prince and several other family members waited awkwardly. Please, Yolanda whispered. Please let me see my granddaughter. Now you want to see her? I felt the anger rising. After you dismissed her? After you made her feel less than? I was wrong, she sobbed. Watching her perform just now, from down the street, I've been so foolish, so stuck in old ways. Please, Summer, let me make it right. That's not my decision, I said coldly. It's Poppy's. As if summoned, Poppy appeared beside me, still flushed from her performance. She stopped short when she saw Yolanda. Abuela? She said quietly. Mi amor. Yolanda fell to her knees. I'm so sorry. Your party, everything is beautiful. Will you forgive your foolish grandmother? Poppy looked up at me, then back at Yolanda. With the wisdom that sometimes only children possess, she stepped forward and hugged her grandmother. You missed all my other parties, she said simply. Don't miss any more, okay? Yolanda broke down completely, holding Poppy close. Never again, mi amor. Never again. Marcel appeared at my elbow. Now that's good television, he said softly. Real emotion, real reconciliation. Summer, if you're willing, I'd like to develop a show around Poppy, not just as a performer, but as this remarkable little girl who brings people together. I watched as Poppy led Yolanda by the hand to meet Marcel's twins, her natural warmth already melting years of prejudice. She does have a gift, I admitted, but any decisions about shows will need to wait until tomorrow. Today is just about celebrating. Of course, Marcel smiled, but do expect my call. As the party continued around us, with acrobats spinning overhead and music filling the air, I watched my daughter bridge the gap between old prejudices and new beginnings. She danced with her cousins, showed her grandmother her ribbon techniques, and glowed with the kind of happiness that only comes from being truly seen and valued. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's showing people exactly what they almost missed out on. 3 days after the party, our living room had become command central for what Angela jokingly called Operation Poppy Stardom. My coffee table disappeared under stacks of business cards, offers, and magazines featuring photos from the party. Look at this one, Angela said, holding up her phone. The video of Poppy's performance had gone viral, reaching millions of views. The comments are incredible. This little girl is going places. Most magical children's party ever. Where was my invitation? My phone buzzed. Yolanda again. Since the party, she'd called daily, trying to make amends. You should answer, Mom said, sorting through another pile of correspondence. She brought flowers to the house yesterday while you were out. I'm not ready, I admitted. It's too soon. The doorbell rang. Caleb opened it to find Marcel's assistant holding a thick envelope. The contract for Poppy's screen test, she explained. Mr. Price wants to fast-track this. He's never seen such organic audience response. As we reviewed the paperwork, Poppy burst through the door with Dad, returning from dance class. Miss Rachel says I'm ready for point shoes, she announced, twirling through the room. Slow down, princess. Dad laughed. You've got plenty of time for that. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Prince. Mom's a mess. She can't sleep. Please talk to her. Your brother-in-law? Angela asked. I nodded. You know, Mom said carefully, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward. Before I could respond, Poppy climbed onto my lap. Mommy, can Abuela come to my dance class tomorrow? She called Miss Rachel and asked if she could watch. I stiffened. She did what? She's trying, Summer, Caleb said softly. She even called the studio to learn about proper dance attire for young girls. She wants to understand Poppy's world. The doorbell rang again. This time, it was Yolanda herself, clutching a pink gift bag. I know I should have called first, she said quickly before I could speak. But I found these while cleaning my attic. They belong to my grandmother. She pulled out a pair of antique silver hair combs, decorated with tiny dancers. She was a ballerina in Mexico City. I never told anyone because I was taught that performing wasn't respectable. I was wrong. So wrong. Poppy's eyes lit up at the combs. They're so pretty. They're for you, mi amor, Yolanda said. If your mother allows it. I looked at the combs, then at my daughter's hopeful face, and finally at Yolanda's tear-filled eyes. They're beautiful, I conceded. Thank you. There's more, Yolanda continued, pulling out old photographs. These are of my grandmother performing. I thought maybe they could inspire Poppy. The photos showed a striking young woman in classical ballet poses. Poppy grabbed them eagerly. Look, Mommy, she's doing my moves. Actually, Yolanda said hesitantly, I was hoping. Would it be possible for me to attend the screen test next week? I want to support Poppy properly this time. The room fell silent. Everyone watched me, waiting for my response. You heard her, I said finally. You heard us both. I know, Yolanda whispered. I will spend the rest of my life making up for that. Mommy, Poppy tugged at my sleeve. Remember what Miss Rachel says about second chances? I had to smile. That they're like learning a new dance move. You have to give them your full attention. Poppy nodded seriously. And you have to practice to get better. Angela snorted into her coffee. Out of the mouths of babes. Okay, I said, looking directly at Yolanda. You can come to the screen test, but this is Poppy's journey. No criticism, no old-fashioned ideas about what girls should or shouldn't do. I promise, Yolanda said fervently. I want to learn, to understand, to be the grandmother she deserves. As if to seal the deal, Poppy took the antique combs and held them out to Yolanda. Can you put these in my hair, Abuela? Like your grandmother wore them? The tender way Yolanda arranged the combs in Poppy's hair, explaining their history and sharing stories about her grandmother, the ballerina, made something shift in my heart. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, not yet, but it was a beginning. Look, Angela whispered, showing me her phone. She'd captured the moment between grandmother and granddaughter, the silver combs glinting in Poppy's dark curls. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people realize what they almost lost. I watched as Yolanda taught Poppy how to pose like her great-great-grandmother, their laughter filling the room, and realized that maybe, just maybe, this was better than any revenge I could have planned. The screen test studio buzzed with activity. Makeup artists fussed over Poppy while Marcel's team adjusted lights and cameras. In the waiting area, our entire family had assembled. Even Prince brought his sons, who now watched their cousin with undisguised admiration. She's so calm, Yolanda whispered, clutching her rosary. I'm more nervous than she is. That's our Poppy, Dad said proudly, born for the spotlight. Marcel strode in, reviewing notes on his tablet. All right, everyone. We're going to film 3 scenes. First, Poppy will perform her ribbon dance. Then we'll do a short dialogue scene, and finally, an improvised interaction with our current show's star, Tommy Turner. Tommy Turner? Poppy's cousins exclaimed. From the Magic Treehouse? On cue, a freckled boy about Poppy's age entered with his mother. He waved at Poppy, who gave a little wave back. Places, everyone, Marcel called. Family members can watch from the observation room. As we filed into the adjacent room with its large viewing window, Yolanda grabbed my arm. Summer, wait. There's something you should know. What is it? I've been taking dance classes, she admitted. Beginner's ballet. I want to understand Poppy's world better. Before I could respond, the music started. Poppy began her routine, but this time with something extra. She'd incorporated the story of her great-great-grandmother, the ballerina, into her movements. The antique combs sparkled in her hair as she danced. Extraordinary, Marcel murmured, scribbling notes. She's not just performing, she's telling a story. The ribbon dance flowed seamlessly into the dialogue scene, where Poppy read lines with a natural ease that made even the crew stop and watch. Now for the improv, Marcel announced. Tommy, join Poppy, please. Just play together naturally. Pretend you're meeting at a playground. What happened next left everyone speechless. Poppy and Tommy created an impromptu story about a magical circus where children could fly. Their interaction was so genuine, so engaging that Marcel didn't call cut for nearly 10 minutes. That's it, he exclaimed finally. That's exactly what we've been looking for. Summer, Caleb, can we talk contracts? As Marcel led us to his office, Angela rushed in with her phone. You need to see this. Someone leaked footage from the birthday party online. It's trending nationwide. The video showed Poppy's reconciliation with Yolanda, followed by her performance. The comments were overwhelming. This is the kind of representation we need. Finally, a young girl who shows that tradition and progress can coexist. When's her show starting? My daughters need this. Marcel's assistant burst in. Sir, Good Morning America wants to feature Poppy and her grandmother. They're calling it Breaking Barriers Through Dance, a story about bridging generational and cultural gaps. Perfect timing, Marcel smiled. Because I'm not just offering Poppy a role in our existing show. I want to create a new series, centered around her. A young girl who uses dance to bring her family's past and present together. Caleb squeezed my hand as Marcel continued. We'll call it Poppy's Grand Jeté. It's about family, tradition, and moving forward. Your daughter's story at the party? That's exactly what families across America need to see. What do you think? I asked Caleb. I think, he said slowly, that our daughter has a gift for healing hearts, even ones as stubborn as my family's. We returned to the studio to find Poppy teaching her cousins basic dance moves while Yolanda watched, beaming with pride. Before you decide, Yolanda approached us. I want you to know something. I've rented a studio space next to Poppy's dance school. I'm opening a Hispanic cultural center. Dance classes, storytelling, art. I want to preserve our traditions while celebrating our children's futures. Abuela, Poppy ran over. Did you see? Tommy and I made up a whole story. Can he come to your cultural center too? Of course, mi amor. Everyone is welcome. Marcel cleared his throat. So, shall we sign? The network wants to fast-track this project. I looked at my daughter, surrounded by family who had learned to love her for exactly who she was. At Yolanda, who had transformed her regret into action. At Caleb, who stood firmly by our side. Poppy, I called. How would you like to star in your own TV show? Her eyes widened. Can I dance in it? It's all about dance, tradition, and family, Marcel explained. Can Abuela tell stories about the bailarina? That's exactly what we want. Poppy looked at each of us, then did a perfect pirouette. Yes, please. As everyone celebrated around us, I caught Yolanda wiping away tears. Thank you, she whispered, for giving me a second chance to be part of something magical. Sometimes I realized the best endings aren't about getting even. They're about growing together. The theater buzzed with excitement for Poppy's first live performance as the star of Poppy's Grand Jeté. 3 months of filming had culminated in this moment, a special preview event combining scenes from the show with a live dance performance. 5 minutes, Angela called, adjusting Poppy's costume. The antique combs, now her signature accessory, gleamed under the stage lights. Yolanda rushed in, carrying a small box. Mi amor, look what I found in the Cultural Center's first donation drive. She opened it to reveal a delicate golden bracelet with tiny ballet shoes. It belonged to another dancer who wanted you to have it. It's beautiful, Abuela, Poppy gasped. Can I wear it tonight? As Yolanda fastened the bracelet, Marcel appeared. Full house, he announced. Every network executive, entertainment reporter, and social media influencer in the city is out there. Are you ready, Poppy? She nodded confidently, then turned to me. Mommy, will you and Daddy watch from backstage? Front row, baby, Caleb assured her, right between Abuela and Grandma Adeline. The orchestra began tuning up. Prince poked his head in, his sons trailing behind him. Break a leg, Poppy. The boys made you something. They presented her with a hand-drawn card covered in glitter. You're our favorite star, the youngest said shyly. Places, everyone, the stage manager called. I hugged Poppy tight. Remember what we always say? Shine bright and dance with my heart, she recited, then skipped to her position. The house lights dimmed. Marcel stepped onto the stage to introduce the show, explaining how a birthday party had sparked a movement celebrating family, tradition, and the arts. The screen above the stage lit up with the show's first episode. The audience laughed at Poppy's natural wit, gasped at her dance sequences, and fell silent during the emotional scenes where her character helped bridge generational divides. When the screening ended, the curtain rose to reveal Poppy center stage. The music began. a fusion of classical ballet and traditional Hispanic melodies that Yolanda had helped compose. Poppy's performance told the story of her great-great-grandmother, the ballerina, through dance. As she moved, images from the antique photographs were projected behind her, creating a dialogue between past and present. Halfway through, Yolanda rose from her seat and walked to the stage. This was the surprise we'd planned. Grandmother and granddaughter dancing together, mixing ballet with traditional Mexican dance steps Yolanda had learned. The audience erupted in applause as they finished. Poppy in her modern costume, Yolanda in traditional dress, embracing center stage. That's not all. Marcel's voice boomed through the speakers. Tonight, we're announcing the Poppy's Grand Jeté Foundation, providing dance and arts education to underserved communities. Caleb stood up. And the first cultural center opens next month, he announced, with programs celebrating all traditions, all families, all dreams. The applause was deafening. Reporters' cameras flashed as Poppy and Yolanda took their bows. But the real surprise came when Prince and his sons joined them on stage, followed by our entire extended family. This is what we're about, Caleb declared into the microphone. Not just entertainment, but transformation. Not just tradition, but growth. At the after-party, surrounded by industry executives and reporters, Poppy sat with her cousins, teaching them dance moves while still in her performance costume. Summer, Yolanda touched my arm. Look at this. She showed me her phone, a message from her sister in Mexico. I saw the live stream. I was wrong about girls carrying on traditions. Poppy has carried our family's story further than we ever imagined. Marcel clinked his glass for attention. The network has seen the response. We're not just picking up the show for a full season. We're launching a whole programming block about family traditions and modern dreams. And it all started with a little girl's birthday party. And a grandmother who learned to change? Yolanda added softly. Tommy Turner, who'd become Poppy's regular co-star, ran up with exciting news. Poppy, we're trending #1. All the kids at my school want to learn dance now. As camera crews captured the celebration, I watched my daughter move effortlessly between worlds, teaching her cousins ballet while learning traditional dances from Yolanda, sharing stories with reporters while keeping her young co-stars entertained. You know, Angela said, scrolling through social media reactions, this is way better than revenge. You didn't just prove them wrong, you helped them change. Poppy's laughter rang out as she danced with her grandfather, her new bracelet catching the light, the antique combs secure in her hair, a perfect blend of past and future. Ready for what comes next? Caleb asked, putting his arm around me. Looking at our transformed family, I smiled. As long as we dance through it together. The grand opening of the Cultural Center buzzed with energy as children rushed through the newly painted halls. Poppy led a group tour, proudly showing off the dance studios, art rooms, and the special heritage hall filled with photographs and stories from different families. And this, she announced, stopping at a prominent display, is my great-great-grandmother, the ballerina. The antique photos had been beautifully framed alongside the silver combs that started it all. Poppy! Tommy called from the main studio. The camera crew is ready for our demonstration. As the children gathered to watch, I felt Yolanda's hand slip into mine. I never imagined this, she whispered. Look at what she created. The center had become more than we'd dreamed, a place where tradition and progress danced together. In one room, Prince's sons took modern dance classes. In another, elderly community members taught traditional crafts to eager students. Summer. Angela rushed over with her tablet. The registration list for next semester is completely full. We have a waiting list of over 200 kids. Marcel emerged from his meeting with the network executives. It's official. We're franchising the Cultural Center concept nationwide. Poppy's Grand Jeté isn't just a show anymore. It's a movement. Mommy, Poppy called from the studio. Come quick. Abuela's going to show everyone her recital dance. I followed her voice to find Yolanda in her ballet practice clothes, ready to perform the routine she'd been practicing for months. The room fell silent as she began, her movements telling the story of her journey from rigid traditionalist to proud grandmother of a dancing star. Remember when she wouldn't even come to my birthday? Poppy whispered, watching her grandmother dance. Now she's braver than anyone, Caleb wrapped his arm around us both. Sometimes people just need the right motivation to change. The demonstration class began, with Poppy and Tommy leading children through basic steps. Parents watched from the observation window, including several who had once sided with Yolanda's old views. Mi amor, Yolanda called to Poppy after the class. Show them the special combination we created. Together, grandmother and granddaughter performed a dance that blended ballet with traditional Mexican steps. The sight of them moving in perfect harmony brought tears to more than a few eyes. This is what healing looks like, Mom said, squeezing my hand. Not just forgetting the past, but building something new from it. Dad, who'd been quietly documenting everything on his camera, showed me his latest shot. Poppy teaching Yolanda a pirouette while both wore identical grins. The network loves this angle, Marcel commented. The show's next season will focus on the cultural center and its impact on the community. Real stories, real transformations. Prince approached with his wife, both looking somewhat sheepish. We've been thinking, would you consider adding traditional music classes? The boys are interested in learning. Of course, Poppy exclaimed before anyone could respond. Everyone's welcome here. That's the whole point. As the day wound down, families lingered in the Heritage Hall, adding their own stories to the collection. Yolanda stood before her grandmother's photos, now joined by pictures from Poppy's show and the birthday party that started it all. I was so wrong, she said softly. I thought holding on to tradition meant resisting change. But look at this place. We're not losing our heritage, we're helping it grow. Poppy, still wearing her practice tutu, took her grandmother's hand. Abuela, can we add your ballet recital photo to the wall? You want to display that? Of course, it's part of our story now. As Yolanda and Poppy arranged the new photo, I caught sight of my reflection in the studio mirrors. The woman who had once plotted revenge had transformed too, just like everyone else. Ready to head home? Caleb asked, gathering Poppy's dance bags. Wait, Poppy called. One more thing. She ran to the center of the main studio and performed the split that had once dazzled her birthday party audience. But this time, Yolanda joined her on the floor, matching her pose perfectly. Look, Mommy, Abuela learned it. The room erupted in applause and laughter. Even Prince's boys attempted their own wobbly splits. You know what's better than revenge? I said to Angela as we watched the impromptu split competition unfold. What's that? Revolution. Because that's what we'd created. Not just a TV show or a cultural center, but a revolution of hearts. A place where the past and future could coexist, where tradition could evolve without being lost, and where a little girl's birthday party could change everything. Again, Poppy called out to her growing dance family. Everyone together this time. And as the room filled with joyful attempts at splits and pirouettes, I realized that sometimes the best endings aren't endings at all. They're beautiful new beginnings.
The first red flag should have been the receipts from the casino, carelessly stuffed between the pages of his work planner. But love makes you blind, and I had been wearing the thickest pair of rose-colored glasses for the past decade. I'm Helen, and until last Tuesday, I thought I had the perfect marriage. Babe, I'm heading out for a client meeting, Cruz called out, adjusting his tie in our bedroom mirror. Might be a late one, I nodded, focused on the laptop screen where I was reviewing our monthly statements. Something wasn't adding up. Drive safe, I managed, my throat tight as I stared at yet another mysterious withdrawal. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I called my sister. Marley, I need you to come over, now. I'll be there in 15, she said, no questions asked. That's what I loved about her. While waiting, I dug deeper into Cruz's planner. Behind the pristine schedule of business meetings and client calls lay a different story. Betting slips, IOUs, and scribbled numbers that made my stomach churn. Marley arrived with coffee and her signature no-nonsense attitude. Spill, she demanded, settling onto our leather couch, the one Cruz insisted we needed to maintain appearances. I spread the evidence across our coffee table. Look at these withdrawals. 5,000 here, 8,000 there, and these betting slips. My hands trembled as I pointed to the dates. They match perfectly. That son of a bitch, Marley whispered, scanning the documents. How long has this been going on? I don't know. But our savings account. I pulled up the banking app. It's almost empty. He told me he was investing in real estate ventures. Have you confronted him? I shook my head. I'm scared to. You should see him at family dinners, bragging about his latest deals, charming everyone with stories of our future wealth. Even Sebastian, his impossible-to-please father, seems impressed lately. Marley grabbed my hand. Helen, this isn't about impressing family anymore. This is theft. He's stealing your future. My phone buzzed, a text from Cruz. My heart stopped when I saw it. What? Marley asked, noticing my expression. I showed her the message. Hey babe, need you to transfer $50K to my business account. Big opportunity coming up. We'll explain later. Love you. He's going to lose it all, I whispered, reality crashing down around me. Everything we've worked for. Marley's eyes narrowed. Don't transfer a penny. In fact, she pulled out her phone and dialed. Thomas, it's Marley. Remember Helen, my sister? She needs your help, financial advice. It's urgent. I started to protest, but she held up her hand. Listen, Helen, Tomas is the best financial advisor I know, and more importantly, he's discreet. Meeting in an hour? She confirmed, then hung up. Get dressed. We're going to fix this. I can't just... Yes, you can. And you will. Marley stood, pulling me up with her. Cruz isn't the only one who can play this game. The difference is, you're going to play it smart. As I changed clothes, another text came through. This time from an unknown number. Tell Cruz his bet is locked in. No backing out now. My hands shook as I showed Marley. Perfect, she said, her expression hardening. More evidence. Now come on, we're meeting Thomas. In the car, I stared out the window at our suburban neighborhood, where every house looked perfect from the outside. Just like my marriage. You know what the worst part is? I said quietly. Last week at dinner, he was telling Catherine about the vacation house we're supposedly buying. His mother was so excited, already planning family gatherings there. It's all lies. Then it's time to tell the truth, Marley replied, turning onto the highway. But first, we're going to make sure you're protected. My phone buzzed again. Cruz sending a heart emoji, acting like everything was normal. Like he wasn't gambling away our life savings while I sat here, finally seeing clearly for the first time in years. Marley, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. I want to destroy him. She glanced at me, a small smile playing on her lips. That's my girl. And trust me, by the time we're done, he won't know what hit him. I took a deep breath, feeling something shift inside me. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. Determination. Cruz thought I was naive, the trusting wife who never questioned his business dealings. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. Tomas's office felt like a sanctuary of calm, all clean lines and soft lighting. He hadn't changed much since our childhood days. Still the same thoughtful eyes and measured speech that made everyone trust him instantly. The first thing we need to do, he said, reviewing the documents I'd brought, is set up accounts he can't access. Separate everything. But won't he notice? I asked, twisting my wedding ring. Not if we do it right. Thomas pulled up his computer screen. You said he never checks the detailed statements? Never. He just asks me to transfer money when he needs it. Marley snorted. When he needs to place bets, you mean? Here's what we'll do, Thomas said, typing rapidly. I'm setting you up with a private trading account. We'll start small, but smart. Cruz won't notice money missing because there won't be any to miss. You'll be investing what's left before he can touch it. Over the next hour, Tomas walked me through the basics of online trading. It was surprisingly straightforward once he explained it. By the time we finished, I had made my first investment. Remember, he warned, this isn't about getting rich quick. It's about protecting yourself. My phone rang. Cruz. I let it go to voicemail. He's probably wondering about that transfer, Marley said. I should call him back. No, both Marley and Thomas said simultaneously. Let him sweat, Marley added. You're busy with errands. When I finally returned home, Cruz was waiting, pacing the living room. "Where have you been?" he demanded. "I needed that transfer hours ago." I forced my face to remain neutral. "Sorry, honey. I was helping Marley with something. What's this opportunity you mentioned?" His expression shifted instantly, that familiar, charming smile appearing. "Baby, you won't believe it. This development project downtown. Totally exclusive. But we need to move fast." He wrapped his arms around me. "Did you make the transfer?" I tried, but the app was giving me trouble. "Maybe we should discuss it first?" "Helen!" He sighed, pulling away. "Don't you trust me? Haven't I always taken care of us?" I thought about the empty savings account. "Of course I trust you. I just want to understand better." "Look," he said, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "Sometimes in business, you have to move quickly, take risks. You know what my father's like, always watching, waiting for me to fail. I can't let that happen." The mention of Sebastian made me wince. Cruz's father had always been impossibly demanding, but was that really an excuse? "I'll figure something out," Cruz muttered, pulling out his phone. "Maybe I can delay." "No, that won't work." He started typing frantically. I went upstairs to change, using the moment alone to check my new trading app. The small investment I'd made earlier was already showing a modest gain. My hands shook as I thought about what I was doing, but Tomas's words echoed in my head. This isn't about revenge, it's about survival. That night, Cruz was unusually attentive, ordering my favorite takeout and suggesting we watch my preferred shows. I played along, all while my phone silently buzzed with updates from Marley and Thomas. "You know I love you, right?" Cruz said, pulling me close on the couch. "Everything I do for us." I forced myself to smile. "I know." Later, after Cruz fell asleep, I slipped downstairs with my laptop. Following Tomas's instructions, I began moving small amounts into my secret account. Not enough to raise suspicion, but enough to start building my safety net. My phone lit up with a text from Marley. "How are you holding up?" "I feel like I'm living a double life," I replied. "You are. But so is he. The difference is, you're doing it to protect yourself. He's doing it to destroy you both." The next morning, Cruz was back to his confident self. "Baby, I closed an amazing deal yesterday. We're going to be set for life." I nodded, sipping my coffee, while checking my trading app under the table. Another small gain. "We should have the family over soon," he continued. "Show them how well we're doing. Maybe next weekend?" "Sure," I said, thinking of Catherine's excitement about the non-existent vacation house. "Whatever you want." As he left for work, kissing me goodbye like nothing was wrong, I opened my laptop and logged into my secret account. The numbers were small, but they were mine. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of real hope. Marley was right. I could play this game too. And unlike Cruz, I was playing for keeps. The family gathering felt like a theater performance, with Cruz as the star and our home as his stage. I watched from the kitchen as he worked the room, champagne glass in hand, spinning tales of his latest investments. "You should see the property portfolio we're building," he announced to the admiring faces. "Helen and I are thinking of starting our own real estate firm." Catherine beamed with pride. "My son, the entrepreneur!" I busied myself arranging appetizers, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. Marley appeared beside me, sliding a glass of wine my way. "How are you holding up?" she whispered. "Barely breathing. Every word out of his mouth is a lie." Sebastian's booming voice carried from the living room. "Cruz, tell them about that development project downtown." My hands froze on the cheese platter. The fictional project he'd tried to get $50,000 for last week. "No, actually, Dad," Cruz said smoothly, "we're keeping that one quiet for now. Very exclusive, you understand." Sebastian nodded knowingly, but something flickered in his eyes. He pulled Cruz aside, their voices dropping to whispers by the window. Allison, Cruz's sister, bounced into the kitchen. "Helen, you're so lucky. Cruz is just amazing. How does it feel being married to such a successful man?" I forced a smile. "Blessed? Could you help me with these plates?" My brother Harold stood alone in the corner, watching Cruz with narrowed eyes. They hadn't spoken since their falling out over a borrowed sum that Cruz never repaid. Now I wondered if that money had gone to gambling debts too. "Ladies and gentlemen," Cruz clinked his glass, "I'd like to make a toast. To family, to success, and to my beautiful wife who supports all my ventures." Everyone raised their glasses. I caught Harold's eye across the room. He didn't drink. "Helen!" Catherine called out. "Tell us about the vacation house. Cruz says it's right on the water?" Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A notification from my trading app. Another successful investment. The irony wasn't lost on me. "It's still in the planning stages," I managed. "Planning stages?" Sebastian's eyebrows rose. "Cruz told me you'd already put down a deposit." Cruz appeared behind me, his hand pressing firmly against my lower back. "We're being careful with the announcements, Dad. Market sensitivity and all that." Sebastian pulled Cruz aside again, their whispered conversation more intense this time. I caught fragments. "Cannot afford another scandal?" And, just like Atlantic City, Marley touched my arm. "Bathroom break?" In the safety of the powder room, I showed her my phone. "My investments have doubled since last week." "That's my girl!" she grinned. "How much has Cruz asked for lately?" 3 separate urgent transfers. I keep making excuses. A knock at the door made us jump. "Helen?" It was Catherine. "Dear, is everything all right?" We emerged to find her waiting, concern etched on her face. "You seem distant tonight." "Just tired," I said. "Work's been busy." Back in the living room, Cruz was deep in conversation with Allison about some new business contact who was going to change everything. I watched him gesture enthusiastically, watched everyone lean in, completely captivated by his performance. Harold approached me quietly. "You okay, sis?" "Fine," I said automatically. "Really? Because that vacation house Cruz mentioned? The one on Lake Geneva?" He paused. "I drove by there yesterday. For sale sign's still up. No sold sticker." My heart skipped. "Harold!" "Just be careful," he murmured, squeezing my arm before walking away. The evening wound down with Cruz proposing another toast, this time to future ventures and family unity. Sebastian watched him with an unreadable expression, while Catherine dabbed happy tears from her eyes. As everyone was leaving, Sebastian pulled Cruz aside one final time. "Don't make me regret covering for you again," he said, just loud enough for me to hear. Cruz's face hardened for a split second before his charm slipped back into place. "Dad, trust me, everything's under control." After the last guest left, Cruz loosened his tie and poured another drink. "Perfect night, wouldn't you say? Everyone's impressed with our success." I started cleaning up, collecting empty glasses. Sebastian seemed concerned about something. "My father's always concerned," Cruz laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "He doesn't understand modern business. Speaking of which," he pulled out his phone. "I need you to make another transfer tomorrow. Big opportunity coming up." "How big?" I asked, thinking of my secret trading account. "Just 30,000. Small change compared to what we'll make back." I nodded silently, already composing a message to Tomas in my head. The house of cards Cruz had built was starting to sway, and I needed to be ready when it fell. "Something's not adding up," Tomas said, scrolling through the bank statements spread across his desk. "These transfers, they're going to shell companies that don't exist." I leaned forward, pointing at a recurring payment. "What about this one? $20,000 every month to Summit Ventures?" Tomas typed rapidly on his keyboard. "Summit Ventures, registered 3 months ago. Wait." His face darkened. "The address is a betting shop in Vegas." My stomach lurched. "How much has he sent them?" "In total?" Tomas ran the calculations. "Over 200,000. The room spun. I gripped the edge of his desk until my knuckles turned white. "There's more," he said quietly. Remember that lake house he's been talking about? The one Harold said wasn't sold? It was sold! 2 months ago. Tomas turned his screen toward me. To this couple from Michigan. My phone buzzed, Cruz asking where I was. I ignored it. Helen, Tomas said gently, there's something else you need to see. He pulled up another document. Your house equity loan. It was refinanced last month. What? That's impossible. I never signed anything. Are you sure about that? Look at the signature. The signature looked exactly like mine. My blood ran cold as I remembered the stack of papers Cruz had me sign for tax purposes while I was rushing to work. I'm calling Marley, Tomas said, already dialing. We need to move faster. Marley arrived 20 minutes later, bringing coffee and her laptop. I've been doing some digging too, she said. You remember that weird comment Sebastian made about Atlantic City? She pulled up an old newspaper article. The headline made my heart stop. Local casino reports major fraud attempt. It's from 6 years ago, she explained. No names mentioned, but the dates match when Cruz suddenly left his job at the investment firm. Sebastian covered it up, I whispered. That's what he meant at dinner. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from an unknown number. Tell Cruz his payment is late. 48 hours, or we go public. I showed it to Thomas and Marley. Forward that to me, Tomas said. I know someone who can trace it. What am I supposed to do about the $30,000 he wants me to transfer? I asked. Nothing, Marley said firmly. You're not giving him another penny. My phone rang. Cruz again. This time I answered. Where are you? He demanded. I've been calling for hours. At Marley's, I lied smoothly. Girl stuff? Why? I need you home, now. That transfer can't wait. I looked at Thomas and Marley, who were both shaking their heads. I can't right now, I said. Maybe tomorrow. Helen, his voice turned cold. This isn't a request. I need that money today. Is everything okay? I asked, trying to sound concerned. You seem stressed. Everything's fine, he snapped. Just get home and make the transfer. After I hung up, Marley grabbed my shoulders. You can't go home, not when he's like this. I have to, I said. If I don't, he'll know something's wrong. Tomas was still typing. Got it. That transfer to Summit Ventures last week? It bounced. They're probably the ones threatening him. Which means he's desperate, Marley added. My trading app pinged. Another successful investment. In the past few weeks, I'd managed to build a decent nest egg. Not enough to replace what Cruz had lost, but enough to survive on. Stay with me tonight, Marley pleaded. No. I stood up, gathering my things. I need to face him, but first. I turned to Thomas. Show me everything. Every transfer, every fake company, every lie. I want it all documented. For the next hour, we compiled evidence. Bank statements, property records, threatening texts, everything. Thomas even found photos of Cruz entering various casinos, time-stamped during his supposed business meetings. What are you going to do? Marley asked as we finished. Right now? I'm going home to make excuses about why I can't transfer money. Tomorrow? I took a deep breath. Tomorrow, I start planning the family dinner where everything comes out. Be careful, Tomas warned. Men like Cruz when they're cornered. I know, I said, thinking of the cold edge in Cruz's voice earlier. But I'm done being afraid. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. Time's running out. I smiled grimly. They had no idea how right they were. For Cruz, time wasn't just running out. It was about to explode in his face. And this time, Sebastian wouldn't be able to cover it up. The annual family dinner is in 3 days, I told Marley as we sat in her kitchen, organizing the evidence into a folder. It's perfect timing. Are you sure you want to do it with everyone there? She asked, sorting through bank statements. They all need to see the truth at once. No more whispered conversations. No more covering up. My phone lit up with a message from an unfamiliar Instagram account. Mrs. McCarthy, we have information about your husband you might want to see. I showed Marley. "Click it," she said. "Could be more ammunition." The message contained photos. Cruz entering various casinos, sitting at high-stakes tables, arguing with what looked like loan sharks in parking lots, all dated during his supposed business trips. "Holy shit," Marley whispered. "Who sent these?" "Someone who wants money, probably," I replied, but saved the photos anyway. Add them to the pile. Cruz had been increasingly erratic since I'd refused the $30,000 transfer. His charm was slipping, revealing something darker underneath. This morning, he'd slammed doors and shouted into his phone about buying more time. My burner phone buzzed. Tomas had insisted I get one. "Meeting at the casino tonight," he texted. "My contact says Cruz is desperate for a big win." "Perfect," I replied. "That's when I'll get his laptop." Marley looked up sharply. "That's risky." "It's necessary. The laptop has all his gambling accounts, all his secrets." The plan was simple. While Cruz was losing more money at the casino, I'd access his laptop using the password I'd seen him type countless times. Tomas would help me download everything. "Catherine called earlier," I told Marley. "She's worried about Cruz, says he's not himself lately." "If she only knew," Marley muttered. My regular phone rang. Cruz. "Hey baby, working late again, don't wait up." "Casino late or actual work late?" I wanted to ask, but instead said, "Okay, be safe." The moment he hung up, I texted Tomas. "He's heading there. I'm going home now." Marley grabbed my arm. "Want me to come?" "No, I need to do this alone, but stay on standby." At home, Cruz's laptop sat on his desk like a ticking bomb. I entered his password, Winner 2023. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I'm in," I texted Tomas. "Check his emails first," he replied. "Look for anything from Summit Ventures." There were dozens, each more desperate than the last. "Payment overdue. Final warning. Collateral required." I forwarded everything to Thomas, then started on the gambling sites. The numbers made me dizzy. Hundreds of thousands lost, loans taken out, payment plans defaulted on. A new email popped up. "Your account is now locked. Outstanding balance, $178,000. Payment required within 24 hours. My hands shook as I downloaded everything. In the background, I could hear Marley's voice in my head. "Get everything. Leave no stone unturned." A text from my burner phone. "He's losing big tonight. Already down $50K. Tomas." I worked faster, copying files, taking screenshots. Then I found it. A folder labeled Property Docs. Inside were forged papers, fake bank statements, and doctored photos of properties he claimed to own. "You won't believe what I just found," I texted Marley, attaching photos. "This is better than we hoped," she replied. "He's going down hard." Headlights swept across the house, a car pulling into the driveway. My heart stopped. "He's home!" I texted frantically. "Get out of there," Marley replied. I closed everything, put the laptop exactly as I'd found it, and barely made it to the kitchen before the front door opened. Cruz stumbled in, his usual grace gone. His eyes were wild, tie askew. "Helen," he slurred, "I need you to do something for me." "What's wrong?" I asked, noting his trembling hands. I need you to sign something, for the business." "Now? It's midnight." "Yes, now!" he snapped, then immediately softened. "Please, baby, it's important." I thought of the forged signatures I'd already discovered. "Can we do it tomorrow, when you're more yourself?" He slammed his fist on the counter, making me jump. "Why won't you just trust me?" "Cruz, you're scaring me." That seemed to wake him up. He ran his hands through his hair, composing himself. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm just stressed about work. Go to bed. We'll talk tomorrow." As I lay in bed later, listening to him pace downstairs, my phone lit up with messages. "Tomas. Documents secured. You won't believe what else I found." Marley. "Everything ready for the dinner?" Unknown number. "Tell Cruz his time is up. We're contacting his family." I smiled in the darkness. They could save themselves the trouble. In 3 days, at the annual family dinner, Cruz's carefully constructed world would crumble. And this time, not even Sebastian could save him. The morning of the family dinner dawned bright and cold. I'd barely slept, but adrenaline kept me moving as I prepared the house. Cruz was already up, making calls in his office, his voice carrying through the walls. "I don't care what it takes," he hissed into his phone. "Get me an extension." "No, you don't understand. My family can't know about this." The doorbell rang. Marley, arriving early as planned. "Everything ready?" she whispered, helping me with the table settings. I patted the manila envelope hidden in the sideboard. "All the evidence is here. Tomas is bringing the final documents tonight." Cruz emerged from his office, all smiles despite the dark circles under his eyes. "Marley, you're early." "Just helping my favorite sister," she said sweetly. I caught the steel in her voice. Great, he said distractedly, checking his phone. "Listen, Helen, I need to run out for a bit. Last-minute business thing." "Before the family dinner?" I asked. "Won't take long, promise." He kissed my cheek, his lips trembling slightly. The moment he left, Marley turned to me. "He's panicking." "Good," I said, straightening the silverware. "Let him squirm." My phone buzzed. A message from Harold. "Just saw Cruz at the bank. He looks desperate." Then another message from Sebastian. "Is everything all right with Cruz? He's not answering my calls." "They're all starting to see cracks," Marley observed, reading over my shoulder. The afternoon passed in a blur of preparation. Cruz returned looking worse than when he'd left, immediately disappearing into his office. I could hear him arguing in hushed tones. At 5, the doorbell rang again. Tomas stood there, briefcase in hand. "Final documents," he murmured, slipping me a folder. "Including proof of the Atlantic City incident." Cruz appeared suddenly. "Thomas? What are you doing here?" "Helen asked me to join dinner," he said smoothly. "Hope that's okay." Before Cruz could respond, more guests arrived. Catherine hugged me tight, while Sebastian eyed his son with barely concealed concern. Allison bounced in with her usual energy, though it felt forced tonight. Harold arrived last, giving me a knowing look as he handed me a bottle of wine. As everyone settled in the living room, Cruz tried to maintain his usual charismatic host persona, but I could see him checking his phone every few minutes, sweat beading on his forehead. "Cruz!" Sebastian called out. "That development project you mentioned, how's it progressing?" "Ah, excellently," Cruz said, tugging at his collar. "In fact—" His phone rang. He glanced at it, face paling. "Excuse me," he muttered, practically running to his office. "Is everything okay?" Catherine asked me, concern evident in her voice. "It will be," I said, catching Marley's eye. "Dinner's ready, shall we?" As everyone moved to the dining room, Cruz returned, his composure clearly shaken. "Before we eat," he announced, forcing a smile, "I have exciting news about our latest venture." His phone buzzed again. This time, I saw the message preview. "Final warning. Pay now, or we expose everything." Cruz's hands shook as he declined the call. "Actually," I said, standing up, "I have something to share first." "Helen," Cruz warned, but I was already walking to the sideboard. "You see," I continued, retrieving the manila envelope, "I've been doing some investing of my own lately." Cruz's face went from pale to ashen. "Would anyone like to see what I've discovered about our family's financial situation?" I asked, opening the envelope. "This isn't the time," Cruz said through gritted teeth. "It's exactly the time," I replied, laying out the first document, a bank statement showing massive transfers to Summit Ventures. Sebastian leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. "What is this?" "Evidence," I said simply, continuing to lay out papers. "Of fraud, gambling, and lies." "Helen, stop!" Cruz pleaded. "The lake house doesn't exist. The development project, a cover for gambling debts, those business meetings." I spread out the casino photos. "Well, see for yourselves." The room fell silent as everyone stared at the evidence. Catherine's hand flew to her mouth. Sebastian's face turned thunderous. Allison started crying quietly. Cruz's phone rang again. This time, when he looked at it, all the fight seemed to leave him. "How long have you known?" he whispered. "Long enough to protect myself," I replied, pulling out one final document. "Divorce papers. And long enough to ensure you can never do this to me again." The doorbell rang, cutting through the tension. Tomas stood up. "That would be the investigators," he said calmly. "They're very interested in discussing Atlantic City." Cruz looked wildly at his father. "Dad?" But Sebastian just shook his head, standing up. "Not this time, son. Not anymore." As voices filled the hallway, I sat down calmly and poured myself a glass of wine. "Dinner," I announced to the shocked faces around the table, "is served." The investigators were professional and direct, setting up in Cruz's office, while the family sat in stunned silence around the dining table. The sound of their questions drifted down the hallway. "When did the gambling begin, Mr. McCarthy?" "Who else was involved in the Atlantic City incident?" Catherine broke first, her wine glass trembling. "Sebastian, did you know about this?" "Not everything," Sebastian replied, his voice heavy. "I knew about Atlantic City. I thought I'd fixed it." "Fixed it?" Harold scoffed. "You enabled him, just like when he borrowed money from me." Allison stood up suddenly, mascara streaking her cheeks. "This is all lies. Helen's making this up because..." "Because what?" Marley cut in. "Because she didn't want to watch her husband gamble away their entire future? Show her the equity loan, Helen." I pulled out the document with my forged signature. Allison collapsed back into her chair. "The vacation house," Catherine whispered. "The business ventures? Everything was a lie?" "Not everything," I said, pulling up my trading app. "I've been making my own investments, real ones, small but legitimate." Tomas nodded. "Helen's actually quite good at it, unlike someone who bet it all on red." A crash from the office made everyone jump. Cruz's voice rose, desperate and angry. "You don't understand. I was about to win it all back. One more week." The investigator's response was calm but firm. "Sir, you owe multiple casinos over $500,000. There is no winning it back." Catherine started crying softly. Sebastian put his arm around her. His face aged 10 years in one evening. "I trusted him with everything," I said, breaking the silence. "Our savings, our future, our life together. And he bet it all away." "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Allison demanded. "Would you have believed me?" I asked. "You all saw what you wanted to see. The successful son, the perfect husband, the brilliant businessman." Harold reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how bad it was. Cruz appeared in the doorway, escorted by 2 investigators. His tie was loose, his confident facade completely shattered. "Helen," he pleaded, "we can fix this. I'll get help. I'll..." "Sign the divorce papers," I said quietly. "It's over." "Listen to me." He tried to step forward, but the investigators held him back. "Everything I did for us, to give you the life you deserved." "No!" I stood up, finally letting my anger show. "You did it for yourself, for your ego, for your addiction. I deserved the truth, and you couldn't even give me that." Sebastian stood up. "Son, how much do you owe? Maybe I can..." "No," I cut in. "No more enabling, no more covering up. He needs to face the consequences." "They're going to press charges," Cruz said, his voice breaking. "Dad, please." "I'm sorry," Sebastian replied, looking every bit his age. "Helen's right. This ends now." Catherine rushed from the room in tears, Allison following close behind. Harold watched them go, then turned to Cruz. "Remember when you said you'd pay me back? That it was just a temporary loan?" He shook his head. "I should have warned Helen then." "Mr. McCarthy," one of the investigators said, "we need to continue our discussion downtown." As they led Cruz away, he looked back one last time. "I really did love you, Helen." "No," I replied, my voice steady. "You loved the idea of me. The trusting wife who never questioned, never doubted. That person doesn't exist anymore." After Cruz left, Sebastian remained at the table, staring at the evidence spread before him. "I thought I was protecting him," he said quietly. "Instead, I made it worse." "You all did," Marley replied. "Except Helen. She protected herself." Tomas gathered the documents carefully. "The investigators will need copies of everything. Helen, are you ready to make a formal statement?" I nodded, feeling lighter than I had in months. "I'm ready for all of it." "What happens now?" Allison asked from the doorway, her makeup completely ruined. "Now?" I picked up my wine glass. "Now Cruz faces the consequences of his actions. The casinos want their money, the banks want answers, and I want a divorce." "And the family?" Catherine's voice was small. "That's up to you," I replied. "But I suggest you all take a long, hard look at how we got here, at how many red flags we ignored." Sebastian stood up slowly. "We should go. Helen, I'm sorry, for everything." As the family filed out, Marley and Tomas stayed behind, helping me clear the untouched dinner from the table. "You did it," Marley said, hugging me tight. "No," I corrected her, looking at the trading app on my phone, at the new life I'd built for myself. "We did it, and this is just the beginning." The morning sun streamed through my new apartment windows as I reviewed the final divorce settlement. Marley sat across from me, scanning her own copy. "They really took him for everything," she said, flipping through the pages. "The casinos got most of it," I replied. "But I got what matters, my freedom." My phone buzzed, a text from Catherine. "Having coffee downtown. Could we talk?" I showed Marley the message. "Are you ready for that?" she asked. "Might as well be." I grabbed my keys. "Want to come?" Catherine looked smaller somehow, sitting alone at the cafe table. The perfectly coiffed hair and designer clothes were gone, replaced by something simpler, more real. "Helen," she stood as we approached. "Thank you for coming." "How's Cruz?" Marley asked as we sat down. Catherine's hands tightened around her coffee cup. "The rehabilitation program seems to be helping. Sebastian's refusing to pay his gambling debts, so—" She trailed off. "Good," I said. "He needs to face this himself." "I keep thinking about all the signs I ignored," Catherine said quietly. "The late-night calls, the mood swings, the endless business opportunities. I wanted so badly to believe in him." "We all did," I replied. "That's how he got away with it for so long." My trading app pinged. Another successful investment. Catherine noticed the sound. "Tomas tells me you're doing well with your portfolio." "Small steps, but real ones." I showed her the numbers. "No fake properties, no empty promises, just careful planning and honest work." "I filed for divorce," Catherine said suddenly. "From Sebastian." Marley and I exchanged surprised looks. Huh? After everything came out about Atlantic City, about how long he'd been covering for Cruz. She straightened her shoulders. I realized I'd been living with lies too. My phone buzzed again. A message from Thomas. "Investment group loved your presentation. They want you to lead the new project." "Life has a way of revealing what's real," I said, showing Catherine the message. "And what matters." "Allison asked about you," Catherine ventured. "She's struggling with everything. Tell her to call me when she's ready to hear the truth. All of it." The cafe door chimed. Harold walked in, spotted us, and headed over. "Thought I might find you here," he said, pulling up a chair. "Just came from the courthouse. Cruz's plea deal is final." Catherine flinched. "How long?" 18 months, plus mandatory counseling and restitution payments." Harold turned to me. "You okay?" I thought about the question, about the nights I'd spent crying, the moments of doubt, the fear of starting over, but also about the strength I'd found, the support I'd received, the life I'd built from the ashes of Cruz's lies. "I'm better than okay," I said. "I'm free." My phone lit up with another notification, this time from the real estate agent. The papers for my new condo were ready. "Speaking of free," Marley grinned, "when's the housewarming party?" "Next weekend," I said. "Small gathering. Real friends only." Catherine's eyes welled up. "I understand if I'm not—" "You're invited," I cut in. "New beginnings, remember?" "Sebastian keeps asking if you'll drop the charges," she said hesitantly. "Not a chance," Marley answered for me. "Good," Catherine surprised us by saying. "Some lessons need to be learned the hard way." Harold raised his coffee cup. "To lessons learned." As we clinked cups, I felt the last weight lift from my shoulders. Cruz had taken so much, but he'd failed to take what mattered most: my resilience, my self-worth, my ability to trust my own judgment. "You know what's funny?" I said, pulling up my investment portfolio. "While Cruz was losing everything on red, I was building something real, something mine." "To real things," Marley said, raising her cup again. "And real people," Catherine added softly. My phone buzzed one final time. An email from Cruz's rehabilitation center. I deleted it without reading it. "Ready to go?" Marley asked. "We've got a condo to furnish." As we stood to leave, Catherine touched my arm. "Thank you," she said. "Not just for meeting me, but for showing us all the truth, even when it hurt." "Especially when it hurt," I corrected. "That's when the truth matters most." Walking out into the sunlight, I felt the warmth on my face and smiled. Cruz had gambled everything on lies and lost. I had bet everything on the truth, and won more than I'd ever imagined possible. "Coming!" Marley called from ahead. "Yeah," I said, catching up to my sister, my friend, my strongest supporter. "I'm right where I need to be."